Hey, grace and peace, everybody. Do me a favor, just type of one as y'all are coming in. Got those heavy microphones, and I don't know why I'm even moving around with those things. I haven't plugged them up and used them in such a long time. I got the cords tangled up somewhere over there. Um, I'm glad that Bruce got to sit down and Pastor Green heard it for himself. Y'all that were around yesterday, y'all know. Basically, this is just a family channel here. Y'all know what's going on. I told y'all today I was going to get into some readings. They kind of shut the live down because Muck Runner just doing what Muck Runner does. Shout out to him. I want to deal with this first. I want to deal with this right here first. People like the brother Cass came on, he shared information, and I want to kind of give y'all an example that I'm a little bit different. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about y'all with the religion. I see somebody else sent me about 2 o'clock in the morning, send me an email. Some other brothers want to talk about Berean. If I had my Pentecostal really jumping, I'd say they're not attacking me. It's the channel. It's the channel and it's the information being discussed on the channel. Because if you got 2 million views and hundreds of thousands of subscribers or whatever you got, I'm the least you don't need to be worried about. You don't need to be worried about me. Some folk out here got some daddy issues. Some folk think they can just rule you with this Bible and religion. But me, y'all can't give me none of that. Anything y'all tell me, I don't care what seminary, I don't care what camp you done studied, what anything y'all tell me, boy, I'ma ask y'all some questions. I'ma hem you up. Told y'all I know I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but some of y'all running around here thinking y'all sharper than y'all are. That's what's going on. And I see this thing for what it is. I'm going to bring some things out. I'm on no one side. I want to deal with truth. But some people feel that because they believe a certain amount of information on something, that you automatically got to believe it. I'm gonna show you an example. This is just an example of it. I'm different from other people. There's a TikTok going around with Stevie Wonder. Look,
Ladies and gentlemen, I got a question.
and everybody is saying that Stevie Wonder, y'all already know that's been the rumor that Stevie Wonder can see. Lady walking down the street on Rodeo, not Rodeo Drive, where that's at on Hollywood, but with all the stars on the sidewalk, and he see a fatty and he turn his head and he looking at the fatty. So it's always been rumor. Another man tried to stick his hand out so Stevie Wonder could shake his hand. Everybody was saying Stevie Wonder can see. Even other people that's met Stevie Wonder said that Stevie Wonder can see. Somebody played a video like this, and this is stuff that I would get and be like, see that, Berean? Y'all don't want to see, but Stevie Wonder can see. And they'll show me some stuff about the awakening,
What the hell is she?
and they would think I would eat it up. It looks like that lady is, and everybody's claiming that that lady is showing Stevie Wonder something on the telephone. Y'all see that type of one? I don't think it's TikTok that I can make it bigger. It looks like she's showing him something on the telephone. My brain don't work like y'all brain work. I could be thinking automatically, that comes to my mind, that she's trying to take a selfie with Stevie Wonder. But everybody else is saying that she's showing him something on the telephone. I'm thinking she getting a screenshot. She want to get a picture with him. You see how I'm different? You can't make me believe what you believe is going on in this picture. I refuse to believe it. And nothing that you say to me can change that. It could be she's showing him something, but I don't perceive it that way. And a lot of you folk running around here believing in the awakening, or believing everybody don't go to hell because they don't believe what your doctrine, what your denomination teach. You can't put that sickness on me or nobody else over here, because we're gonna always talk about another side of the story. Now, it could be what everybody on the internet saying. Stevie Wonder can see. This another piece to the puzzle. She's showing Stevie some pictures or something on the internet, and he's reading it, and she explained it to him. I don't read all of that into this, but y'all do. A bunch of y'all do. Then y'all get mad when I say, why can't she be taking a selfie with Stevie Wonder? I want to talk about Tudor Parfitt today. I'm gonna let this play. Let me see if I get that Tudor lined up. I got a TED talk on there too, because we often talk about scholars and bringing on people. I told them about the other sister down there in Virginia. Shout out to her. I tell you, when stuff was doing good, I was like, we got to bring a DNA expert on here. We got to bring some people to analyze some of this stuff on here. And she said, whatever you put up, I'll put up. I said, I got 300. She said, I got 300 to put up. Ella Green said, listen, Ella Green talked to me this morning. He said, listen, I got some bread to put up too. We need some extras on some of this. I don't know what happened, but after talking to Bruce, shout out to Bruce, and y'all leave me alone about Bruce. I got Bruce blocked. Little mother and them want to form a whole movement against me. Think these people, my folk on my side, they want to form a movement against me. We gonna make some free Bruce t-shirts. Y'all don't hear from Bruce in 2 weeks. Where Bruce at? I gotta hit Bruce on the jack. Got me feeling like some type of. I'll be like the same Bruce that get all of us aggravated when he here. When y'all don't see him for a week or two, y'all start asking me, talking about where Bruce at. Boy, family is something else. I'm going to let this play, and I'm going to ask y'all about Tudor Parfitt. Has Tudor Parfitt helped the awakening in any way? It's more than one way to help the awakening, or not even. I don't want y'all to be confused. There are more and more people that's talking about black people that's been practicing Judaism, or what they would call black Jews, and Jews don't have no color. So there's some people that's been bringing an awareness to the fact. I'm not going to say everybody know it because I know it. Because I've been dealing with this, and I tell y'all, I'm arguing with real Ethiopian girls that came over here on vacation. A lot of y'all don't even know Ethiopians. Came over here on vacation. I'm deep in Dr. Ben in 1990. We the black Jews. So I've been steep into that with the Ark of the Covenant and building with Rastafarians and Freemasons and all of that on the subject. So everybody don't know that. There is something going on because a lot of people, when they think Jews, they'll think of somebody that lives in Crown Heights with the curly hair that wears all black, or they'll think about somebody that look like Dr. Brown. I got to keep it a buck. And there's something happening that's more than that. Ella Green was a little bit shocked in all his years. Pastor 25 years, I think he Israel 18 years or the other way around, vice versa. He heard some stuff that kind of surprised him. I said, that's the awakening. Bruce described the awakening to you yesterday. Oh, race is involved in this thing. And don't worry, I got some questions for all y'all. Christian Israel, all y'all, I got some, because one thing I said, the sharp people gather over here. So I got some questions for y'all about slavery and beating your slave in the Old Testament and chattel slavery and what God is going to allow folk to get to raping white women in the kingdom. So I'm going to read a few passages. Matter of fact, let me pull up a TikTok and question everybody on this thing. Get y'all apologetics up. All the camp dudes, tell the camp dudes come on around. They know everything. They got all the answers for everything. Tell them to come around too. I got some questions. Don't get off into your rhetoric and your garbage. Don't tell me nothing, because I could probably run circles around you with that history and black power. Y'all just quote that Bible. It's more on the planet than that Bible. I shouldn't have said that. You going to hell for that. How can you say that? I was one of the first people to tell some stuff in apologetics, some in these type communities. I'm gonna show y'all some stuff that I was one of the first to tell some folk. Folk run around talking about Berea fruit and all of this stuff. I told y'all I was pastor 28 years ago. Let me tell y'all something. I'm one of the first ones to tell y'all, folk go to school, folk go to seminary and all that stuff, get an education, become pastors. There ain't nowhere in that book. Y'all can think that if y'all want to. Plenty pastors over here got a degree. They ain't born again. You ain't got to be born again to be a pastor. But y'all don't know that. I ain't gonna call people simple. Y'all are innocent. Y'all don't know that. You think somebody behind the pulpit automatically they live in holy, automatically they're in a relationship with God, but y'all don't know that. Let me let this play down. I'm gonna get right into it.
Showing Stevie Wonder. What exactly is she showing Stevie? I thought all this time Stevie Wonder was blind.
Why is everybody even under the impression that she's showing him something? Nobody know you can hold a camera like that and take a picture? All these phones in America? That didn't cross anybody's mind.
There's a lie some damn where. There got to be. There's a lie some damn where. Because I'm trying, and he looking at the phone. That's the thing about it. You can say what you want to say, but Stephen Esteban is looking at the phone. So now I'm supposed to just think I'm crazy. Joe blind ass looking at the phone. So either he not blind or none of us can see.
See that, and you see when things happen like that. I'm playing it. This don't have anything to do with this, but this is a perfect analogy. It's either one or two things. It's not always that. When people come and tell me it's either the Bible is lying, no, wait a minute. Because they'll be like, I'd rather choose God, either y'all lying or the Bible lying. No, there's another option. You got your own interpretation that you already believe, and you're trying to force it on me. And you're trying to tell me it's only two options. And I'll play that game talking to y'all. I say it's either this or that. And I'll be like, I ain't y'all friend. Once the time I ask y'all a question, I say I ain't y'all friend, that means that's a hint that it's another option you got to be thinking. Because with these folk out here, they not going to help you. This ain't a regular classroom, y'all. He said it's either we can't see somebody, it's only two things. He didn't even bring up the fact that it could be that they're taking a selfie. He didn't even bring that up. Throw that out the window. Let me stop this live right here. How should we look at race? Been a lot of race talk, white supremacist talk, black supremacist talk. Oh, these Israelites think they're better than us. And I'm going to give y'all some passages to the Bible, on the Bible. Does that give you the impression? Tony Osborne, does the Bible give you the impression that as a Christian, you're better than other people there around here? Leo brought up the third race, and we were trying to discuss that. How should we look at race as Bible believers? Whole awakening, hate Christianity. Y'all can say what y'all want, Christianity here in that Bible. Call them camp dudes. Let's pull up a definition of Christianity. He died and rose again. Jesus preached that. They preached that at Antioch without the feast days. They weren't keeping the feast days at Antioch, and they were first called Christians in Antioch. Oh, the other people called them that. That didn't bruh. You talking to the wrong people here. You're talking to the wrong people here. Now we're going to talk about white supremacy, black supremacy. We're going to talk about all of that stuff. How should we look at race? How do believers look at race? Let me try to start this off, and then we're going to get into the Parfitt before they start quoting statutes and precepts and all the high truth that you got and your group got. Everybody can see their own sin. You can't see it's a camp here, 12 of y'all here, 12 of y'all here, 80 of y'all here, 30 y'all over there. Everybody like y'all, just the same thing y'all talk. They talk about the church. Oh, it's a church here, it's 5 churches on one block. Camp here, camp there. I done seen them fighting over corners to preach this one truth. But nobody can see that. Why? Because that's the cult that they're in. But they can see the cult. Christianity is a church here, a Chinese restaurant, a Walgreens, and 2 more churches over there. But they can see it about another group. You see how this works, y'all? You see how this works? And I'm going to talk about spiritual manipulation. Either you believe in my way or you're doomed for hellfire. Oh, some of y'all ill with this religion. Oh, it is a religion. Don't give me that other garbage. It's a way of life. This is a religion. It's got an altar and prayer and a deity that hates, and you got to do stuff to make him feel better, or so he won't be mad and destroy you. And this is a religion, y'all. Whatever you call yourself in here today, don't be fooled. Let's let this play.
About what critical race theory is actually about. But this comment in particular gets us to the question of, well, how should Christians think about race? And that could be for another video, but I want to address the building block to that, which is how should Christians not think about race? See, we often point to Galatians 3, where Paul writes that there's neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female. But when we apply that to race, some people eisegete it, and they say that, well, Paul is saying that there's no difference at all between.
Now, remember, Mora Eduardo, Jay, the producer, brought that up, and Mora Eduardo said something. How come you ain't married to? Let me just leave that alone. Let me just fair use.
Ethnicities or races. But here's the thing. If we say that, then we're also saying that there is no gender difference between male and female. I think Paul is saying something much more theologically rich, that for Christians of different races, we have a higher identity in Christ that we share, but also that we live in the present in a way that is informed by our hopes for the future. There will be no more oppression or disparity in heaven. And that entails a certain way of living in the present, but it does not entail ignoring the problems in the present.
Now, I think that was excellent. I love the way he worded that, Tony Osborne. There's neither male nor female. You agree with that, right? There's neither male nor female, but and you don't look at black and white and all those things as a born again believer walking in the things of God, but does that prevent you from dealing with the subject of race altogether? Stevie, does that prevent you from dealing with the subject of race altogether? Or because you live with that hope and you have that higher understanding, you should never be part of any racial discussion? Remember, many of us admit over here, like Dr. Bantu said, on our watch, on what you would call a Christian watch. I'm not even down with the church like that, but I got a Christian worldview. Slavery, chattel slavery took place. Slavery been going on. People been oppressing other people. So don't you people start that nonsense. Jesus, Paul, Moses came on the scene. Daniel, Ezekiel was on the scene. They never said nobody enslaved nobody, shut down indentured servitude all across the planet. They didn't do that, not even in Holy Israel. Matter of fact, y'all said God gave y'all orders on beating a slave. If you knock his eye out, the God of glory, the God of heaven, gave y'all the instructions on how y'all need to have some slaves or servants, whatever you want to call them. There's some things that y'all have to make sure you're on top of if you're involved in apologetics. And not just giving any old crazy answer, saying what you want to say. Let me let someone else play right here. I'm looking for Tony Oz. Okay. We can't. All right. He said, all right, you say we can't have those discussions. So why are so many people offended with the race thing and the Bible if we can't have those discussions? Let me see. I know y'all a couple of seconds behind. That's how come I'm waiting a little bit. Nope. I'm going to shut this one down. I'm going to shut this one down. And I'm going to pull this up right here real quick. Matter of fact, I'll start with this one. I'll look into this thing. I think I could play the other one long as it's for commentary. And the videos, I don't know, most of the time the videos, stuff we discuss, it can't even get monetized. Then we start playing other things.
Are the speaker spaces changing? Are we like being, okay. Professor Parfitt is a British historian, writer, broadcaster, traveler, and adventurer, having appeared on the History Channel, BBC, PBS, in many documentaries on the study of lost tribes and Jewish communities around the world, particularly in Africa, Asia, and the Americas.
Tudor Parfitt specializes in looking for Israelite tribes all over the world. I'll bring up his testimony to people in Oxford. I know Oxford don't mean anything to the people that have a higher knowledge from Baba Shah, but on this planet, specifically in the Western world, Oxford means something. They had their hand in helping educating the people that translated the King James Bible. I know black folk created everything, and white folk was in the mountains, and white folk ain't create nothing. Chinese folk ain't create nothing. Puerto Rican, Mexicans, nobody on the planet created anything but black folk. I already know the story, y'all. I've been there, done that. But he said the people from Oxford were saying, they were kind of bragging that they have so much artifact books and materials and things that you don't have to really go to the land to study a people and study a thing. But Tudor Parfitt said that he wanted to go and communicate with people. After she talks and he says something, I'm going to go back and I'm going to bring up his testimony and how he first came in contact with some people that were Lemba. I'm going to talk about the curses. I'm going to talk about it. Matter of fact, I don't even want Garfield, because Garfield is one thing about, I'm of West Indian descent. My mama Guyanese, but Garfield, them pure West Indians, they too harsh. They too ignorant. Garfield's too harsh. And he don't understand it, but then he laugh. I'm wicked too, y'all. I'm harsh too. I'll be mean and stuff in love, but I just talk real rough, and people feel some type of way, but it really be in love. Like your brother came back and he said, he felt our YouTube relationship. I just had a disagreement with him about the serpent being Adam in the garden was the serpent. And I just talk rough, but I don't often mean it that way. I'm just a little bit harsh. And with this Parfitt thing, I want because Sister E and other people, I think Sister E Garfield had Parfitt on. What is Parfitt's, Tudor Parfitt, for y'all that don't know, what is his position on the awakening? Let me ask y'all that first. Y'all think about that for those of y'all that have seen, I think Parfitt Garfield had him on. Did Moore have him on? Sister E and them had him on. Everybody in Awakening wanted to have Tudor Parfitt on because he's an intellectual that specializes in this. Y'all hear me? Specializes in the history of this. To me, being Oxford trained and traveling the world dealing with this subject, Tudor Parfitt is above Nathaniel. Y'all can't say that. Why y'all can't say that? Because he's your religious leader. He has to know everything. Some people in the church do that. Pastor got to give you the advice on second mortgage, and he don't got an MBA and nothing, but your pastor, because he got the Holy Ghost, he telling you about everything. He may not be good with money. But there's some type of problem that some of us have. If this person is a leader in one thing, they can speak on everything in my life and give me advice on everything and teach me everything because he's my spiritual head. And that's how y'all look at it. And a lot of people say they left the church because of manipulation and control and all of this other stuff. But it happens in all type of spiritual systems. Stop banging on the church and look at some of what you come from. And this is for everybody. Let's let it go. Who is Tudor Parfitt? What role he plays in the awakening?
He is the founder of the academic study of Judaizing groups in Africa.
All right, y'all are hearing this? Tudor Parfitt, you can say what you want. The awakening is built off of the writings of white folk. Most people in denying them, using y'all history to give y'all history on the awakening. Bruce said it was written for the white man. Jay Jackson, it was written for them, for us to never see. They didn't expect us to read and all this other stuff. It's built off the writings of white men. I'm showing y'all other stuff, and y'all been saying the church been hiding it, according to Psalms 83. Let's go.
And is widely introduced as the British Indiana Jones. He actually has a hat like Indy. Currently, he is the Distinguished University Professor at Florida International University and Director and founder of the Global Jewish Program there that hosts many Jewish programs at the Jewish Museum in Miami Beach. Professor Parfitt is Emeritus Professor of Modern Jewish Studies in the University of London at the School of Oriental and African Studies, SOAS.
Two questions. Emeritus, when you hear emeritus professor that's lecturing somewhere, what does that mean? What does that mean right there? What's the second thing she said? And what do they mean when they say a professor of Oriental Studies? Where's the Orient? Where's the Orient, Stevie? Where's the Orient? When they talking about the Orient or the Oriental Studies, where's the Orient, Ruddy Brew? Fair use.
Where he was the founding director of the Center for Jewish Studies. He is the Senior Associate Fellow at the Oxford Center for Hebrew and Jewish Studies and serves as corresponding Senior Fellow of the Académie Royale des Sciences. I think I pronounced that okay.
Just Asia Minor alone?
Of the Academic Advisory Committee of the Paris-based Project Aladdin, whose goal is to promote mutual understanding between Jews and Muslims. In that capacity, he has brought Muslim state leaders and high-ranking Muslim clerics to visit Auschwitz. He is a fellow of the Royal Historical Society in the UK. He is alumni fellow at the Hutchins Center, Harvard College. He has authored 30 books, the most recent Hybrid Hate, of which we will be discussing in this interview, and hundreds of articles. The professor that I have gotten to know over the last 6 years has taught hundreds of non-Jews and Jews how to read Hebrew, about Jewish history and culture.
All of this is just us showing off his credentials, but to let y'all know that he's qualified to speak on this. Now, he can't talk to me about the gifts of the Spirit. He can't talk to me. He can't talk to me about anything. Remember what Kobe said the other day? Professor Kobe said that when somebody's a professional, they specialize in one little itsy-titsy bit of area. I'd be worried when folk come in here and they know everything on every subject. You can't be a professional in that area. Too many areas. Let me let it keep going. Hopefully, should be done with his qualifications soon. He said Middle Eastern and Asian studies. They call that the Orient, the Middle East and Asian studies. Type of 1. There you go.
He has translated Hebrew poetry into English and advocated to Israeli government officials and Knesset about lost tribes and the importance of emerging Jewish communities.
Now, wait a minute. Robert, you're talking about Professor Parfitt, type of 1. He's saying it's possible that he is a Shriner. They got the ancient Egyptian and Arabic order of the noble mystic shrine. A lot of times when people would say things like that is because in Freemasonry, there's different schools of thought. There's different things that you can study, and Freemasonry is open to the canon. They don't believe like in one biblical canon. They'll look into some Hinduism. They'll look into some Islam at a place. They shift over from the Bible to Islam. Freemasonry, the foundation of Freemasonry is the Blue Lodge, the first 3 degrees. But the reason when someone is very knowledgeable or open to different occult traditions and the Bible and the lost books of Solomon and the book of Enoch, and that's who brought it back to Europe. From Africa was a guy named, I think his name was Jones, that brought the book of Enoch back, and he was a Freemason. So because they're open to learning all different things of knowledge all over, and then history with the Knights Templar and people traveling to Solomon's temple and all of that, they put that in an allegorical form. They're open to learn other things. They're not locked into one canon and 66 books. You can't speak to a Freemason like that. So once somebody's open to knowledge that some people may not know about or interested in different specific areas of expertise, some people automatically would say that person is a Freemason, that person is a Shriner, because they have been known to be open to knowledge of other systems, even though it wasn't their system, and sit down and have brotherly discussion or Masonic intercourse with other brothers of another faith. And the church is largely against that. If you're going to talk to somebody about Islam, you better be preaching to them, showing them Muhammad ain't nothing and Jesus is the way, period. Not calling them a brother and really having dialogue and going back and forth and building relationships and things of that nature. People within the church or within any type of fundamentalism consider that and you're open to anything. You're part of an ecumenical system. You want to have open dialogue and you want to respect their point of view. And it's been kind of looked down upon. That's how come people often connect other knowledge or things they haven't been open to as being Masonic. That person's probably Masonic. As soon as, I was like, yo, Elder Green down there, he got friends that's Baptist, friends that's Pentecostal, some of them is oneness, and some of them are oneness, and he an Israelite, and automatically it just came, it's like, oh, they from down south, they probably Freemasons down there. Like Elder Green and all his pastor friends, because they all got different views, and Elder Green said, we go fishing. Other pastor got a boat, we go fishing, and it's no beef. And be like, oh, y'all, but this one you believe in the Sabbath. This one don't eat pork. That one do eat pork. And it's no beef. And y'all go fishing and everything. In certain people's minds, that's Masonic. Y'all just build together and have fun as brothers and do business together as brothers. But yet y'all have some different opposing views. All of y'all in the Bible, not the Quran. All of y'all in the Bible, but from different traditions within the Bible. Whoo, y'all can't even accept that. That within the Bible, there's different traditions. Ooh, that's a rough pill to swallow.
He has been an influence on the way I understand the work that I do for Kulanu and the implications for the future of
Yes, correct, Mother
Judaism.
J. Thank you.
While being an Anglican himself, he has taken pro-Israel stances to audiences that have heckled him. I once said to him, "You took punches for us?" He responded, "Benita, I am not feeling particularly saintly now." With humbleness and pride, I introduce to you the Dr. Tudor Parfitt.
All right, about time. Now we get into it. That was longer than some preachers' introductions. All right, let's get to it.
We can't, Tudor, Professor, we can't hear you.
Yeah, the professor.
Well, thank you for that very generous introduction, Bonnie. It's been great knowing you over the last many, many years. We've done a lot of things together. We've traveled the world in Papua New Guinea and Nicaragua and elsewhere, and it's always been wonderful being associated with you and your husband. I'm very fond of him, as you know, and with Kulanu in general. So it's
now, Tony Osborne. Now you're a Christian, and you recognize that Professor Parfitt is deep in this thing right here. He's going to say some stuff that I'm going to stop on, and I'm going to ask y'all because I want y'all to know we can't, because I don't want to accept certain things. I don't accept this awakening, but I'm not silly. I'm going to look into this. He's going to say some stuff about people in the jungles of Africa and traditions in that Bible. And I, as a wise person, got to take heed to what would make these people thousands of miles from Jerusalem start thinking and saying some stuff. It's not just sick, broken black men in America saying some stuff. Let's just hear them out.
It's been a great ride in many respects, and it goes back about 30 years. I think my first contacts with Kulanu. So,
okay. So we set up a bunch of questions. So this will be an interview style. And the first question, Professor, what prompted you to take on Jewish studies as your academic pursuit?
well, I was very lucky, really, because when I was a kid of 18, I was sent through an organization called Voluntary Service Overseas to Jerusalem. And for a year, I worked with handicapped people in a place called Akvarashvedi, the Swedish village, just outside Jerusalem. And during that period, I learned a little bit of Hebrew, a little bit of Yiddish. I got absolutely fascinated in the whole business of Israel, certainly, but Jewish communities as well. And I had a great friend called Lola Zinga, who was the social worker in the Kfar Shvedi. And once a week, we would go to some place in Israel, some remote moshav or village or something like that, and meet the parents of one of the kids in the institution. And so by the end of the year, I'd met Jews from really literally all over the world, from Bukhara or from Kurdistan or from the States, obviously, from the Yemen, everything. So when I went back at the end of this year, I was going to Oxford, and I started off reading history, but after a bit I thought, no, my heart is not really in kind of English history or anything like that. I want to do Hebrew. So I did Hebrew and Arabic for my first degree. And then I got a fellowship at the Hebrew University after that. And then I went back to Oxford and did my PhD on the Jewish community in Palestine. And that really was then the beginning of my academic career. That's the answer.
Okay. How did you become interested in Jews of color issues?
Well,
the question is, how did you become interested in Jews of color issues? Jews of color, issues with Jews of color. Remember the other guy said, y'all may not like the source, but the other guy said that an academic circle. Never mind, the other guy, he's a devil. He don't count. Let's deal with the white Bible.
My training was mainly in European Jewish history, I suppose, and I was interested in anti-Semitism. Certainly, I was certainly interested in the history of the Jews in the Middle East as well, and that was my doctoral thesis. And it was really very much by chance in 1976. Somebody called David Kessler, the name is going to be known to some of you, I think, because he wrote a very good book on the Ethiopian Jews, and he was the chairman of the Jewish Chronicle in London, one of the great Jewish newspapers. And he invited me to his club, the Athenaeum, very grand club, and we had lunch. And during the lunch, he said, Tudor, I think it would be very good if you went to the Sudan because the Ethiopian Jews are being poisoned. And I said, okay. And so a couple of days later, on behalf of the minority rights group, of which David was a member and a trustee.
Some people feel back in the days, in the 70s, like I said, I was in the 91, the only darker Jews that you ever heard about, most people on the planet that was even into it in the 80s, 70s, and 80s and all that, were the Ethiopian Jews, and the Ethiopians were being treated some type of way. We'll get into the mustard gas and all, and Haile Selassie and all the other stuff that was going on, and people feel that they were being attacked. You know, Mussolini and the church, they were attacking them for a reason. Because they were special and the church hated them. We'll talk about that some other time. But you remember, just remind me that I told y'all that, because a lot of people been believing in a conspiracy back then.
I went to
just before the internet. Nathaniel and them they ain't have passports all stamped up. They were just in Harlem on the corner. And Freemasons and Rastafarians and people that's up on world events are discussing these things already.
Khartoum, took a bus to the eastern part of the Sudan on the border with Ethiopia. And while I was there, I realized that an incredible operation was starting. I heard Hebrew being spoken in the alleys between the huts in the refugee camp where I'd been directed. And this was Operation Moses. So I eventually got back after a lot of adventures, and that, you know, sort of launched me in the business of Black Jews, because I wrote a book.
When he went there in the alleys in Africa, in the Sudan, when he went there, Hebrew was being spoken in the alleys and in between the huts. What he said it was Operation what? Describe what that is right there. Describe what that is for some people that may not know.
Book called Operation Moses.
What was Operation Moses? What year was it, and what was it? What was it about? Then we're gonna talk about Black Jew, white Jew relationship. Does Jew even have a color? Why, when people think Jew, they always think of somebody that look like Professor Parfitt or Dr. Brown?
And then a matter of weeks later, I was invited to go and give a lecture about the Ethiopian Jews in Johannesburg. And while I was in Johannesburg, I met some Lemba men who'd come to the lecture. And the other people in the lecture hall were, you know, they were mainly white, South African.
Ethiopian Jews, now you're hearing Lemba.
African Jews. And it was a very prosperous, quite intellectual group. And at the back, standing up, were half a dozen quite poorly dressed Black men wearing yarmulkes. And so at the end of the lecture, I kind of tottered over to the
poorly dressed intellectual. All right, I got to put it out there. Dante said, yo, in the academic circles, this Black Jew talk is some talk. Is he right or is he wrong? Broken clock is even right twice a day. So he said he's lecturing with some intellectuals, and usually those are white bottles, higher degrees like himself, but it's some dusty black folk with little hats on. Terrence Jones is finna get good right now. From 84, 85, that's operation, that was Moses. He gonna walk his way back to some dusty white black folk, intellectuals, but some dusty black folk made their way to the back. Let's see what the testimony is. I might have to call Garfield. My mama said I was a troublemaker.
Where these men were standing, and I said, well, who are you? And they said, well, we're the same as the Ethiopian Jews, we're Jews. And I think that I must have looked pretty dubious about this. And they said, no, really, believe me, believe it. You have to believe. And if you just come to our villages, you'll soon see that we are telling the truth and that we really genuinely are a lost Jewish tribe.
Now, what would make them make their way to these folk? I'll leave that part alone.
So that weekend, I did go with them to their villages in what was then called Venderland. And I was sort of convinced that there was some Semitic background to the stories. It was incredibly interesting, fascinating things they had to say. And when I got back to London, I went to see Thorpe Weidenfeld, was my publisher. And it was he who published the book that has already been mentioned. It was my first travel book, The 13th Gate, long time ago. And I told him the story. He was absolutely taken by it. And he said, get leave from SOAS, go back, I'll give you a good advance and do what you want to do. And what I wanted to do was to go on a journey which followed the oral tradition of the Lemba across Africa, because their story had it that they came from a place called Senna. They weren't at all sure where this was. And
now, Red Letter, I want you to listen good. I want you to listen to everything. And I'm going to ask Tony Osborne and Terrence Jones, is God in any of this? Now, them other ones, they just keep the Sabbath and don't eat pork. Is God overlooking something with them? I hate to say, I didn't want to start bringing up dispensationalism. Does God have anything to do with them Ethiopian Jews? What led them dusty ones with those little hats to go there? The other guy said he was going to give Parfitt an example, an advance, and he stirred or he amped them. He had an interest in it. Now he want to go following some oral tradition. It's just the white bottle, and they just been curious. They just been intermingling and just carrying on, traveling the world and just doing ignorant stuff. It's just the devil stirring this nonsense that Parfitt is finna get into. Because we know it's the cross in Jesus, and everything else on the planet is devil worship. Let's hear this thing out. Let's hear it out.
It seemed to me, wrong map, that this was a journey worth doing. If you just go on to Tudor Parfitt, Extraordinary Journey, there's a map of it on the internet, which was put up some years ago by the PBS.
Now, the conspiracy theory would say that them other folk, they knew they need the original Jew because they need that other temple for spiritual matters to go forth. They need the third temple, but I'm going to leave that alone.
In New York. So that's how I kind of got into the business of Black Jews. First the Ethiopian Jews, that led me to the Lemba in South Africa. And then I kind of took a break, wrote a book about the Yemenite Jews, and I did various other things, a book on the lost tribes of Israel and the way that was mythologized and became part of a sort of colonial myth theme, if you like. And then finally I wrote a book which was pulling everything somewhat together, and that was published back in 2012 or 13.
Thank you, Brother Lee.
And that was called The Black Jews of Africa and the Americas, and that was published by Harvard University Press.
Harvard University Press. Who's trying to hide anything? Why does white man want to bring out this information to the intellectuals to understand? To have wider discussion. All pictures downstairs in the Vatican. Y'all worried about pictures from the 1400s and people trying to go back and trace oral tradition and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to go all through Africa and ask questions. Why people think that jewelry or Jews were always all up in Europe and just the Middle East? You've got a few Bible stories in Genesis dealing with God's chosen people. It seemed like it's in that land over there where they would call Africa. But let's keep going. Let's keep going.
And I suppose at that point, I really thought this was...
Is he a devil trying to hide somebody's identity? Does it fit that what's happening? Somebody else said, let's talk about the sterilization. Yeah, racism and wickedness is there, but let's just put it all on the table. Let's put it all out there. Don't give part of the story.
You know, I didn't really have anything else to give to this topic. And it was with some irritation about 3 years later that I came across a Jewish community in Africa, which I didn't know about and which I hadn't mentioned in my book.
Should we wait, Professor? Should we go in order of our questions and get to that one later?
If you like.
Because I don't want to steal your thunder. Okay.
No, you go.
Okay. So I also know that one of the books you wrote about the opening essay, the one that was published in 2013, really changed my view. The opening essay is What Color Are the Jews? And it was a study of Jewish sources, Christian sources, and Islamic sources on the discussion of what color Jews are.
Wait a minute, Tony Osborne? Why he talking about this to other intellectuals and they all up at Oxford? He got connections with Oxford? What color are the Jews? Why would why would he do that? Psalms 83, they trying to hide who y'all. Why would they do that? I thought it was all in the Vatican. I thought nobody on the planet knew about this. This sounds like crazy Benaiah Israel talk, don't it, y'all? Let's see what would stir him. Black power stirring him to what would stir him to do this? I agree with my man. He said these folks running around talking about stuff. They just ain't know there was discussions going on. Now, I got to be honest. Somebody else said this is the place for intellectual thought. Higher thinking. But I got to ask a question. Van Harris, I know, because I know you don't answer. I want to ask somebody else. Because a lot of people tell me they done jumped on this channel talking about, I left the church because the church ain't tell me I was Israel. Church ain't tell me this. Church ain't tell me that. Do me a favor. What's the job of the church? Give me 3 scriptures. Because I propose y'all folk run around here talking about what the church ain't do, and y'all don't really know the role of the church. Give me 3 verses of scripture. What the church supposed to do? Help you with your taxes? Help you find a husband? Help your baby daddy act right? What's the job of the church, y'all? Give me 3 scriptures. Somebody, please. Please, y'all know they're going to purify. We're going to get purified in the wilderness. And Obadiah and Job 3. Give me, what's the job of the church? Y'all know so much about everything else. Fair use.
So you are one of the founders of the Academic Studies of Jews in Africa and Lost Tribes, and have traveled extensively to far away and sometimes dangerous places for your studies. I know you've contracted dengue fever and other traveling diseases. We met on our travels to Papua New Guinea. Would you like to talk about some of your travels to places where most people don't want to visit?
Well, Papua New Guinea was a very interesting thing. I was invited quite a few years ago by Sydney University to go and give a lecture. And the real reason for wanting to go to Sydney in the first place was because my son was there. and I wanted to see my son. So I accepted this invitation to Australia, which I'd never visited before. And I was staying in this hotel in Sydney, and one day I got a telephone call to the hotel, and it was from somebody in Papua New Guinea. And so he said that he was the leader of the Jewish community in Papua New Guinea, and he'd read about my stuff on the internet, and he'd understood that, you know, I'd managed to prove through genetic means that the Lemba in South Africa, this black Jewish tribe, or this black tribe that claimed to be Jewish, and somehow managed to prove this through genetic study. And he wanted me to do the same thing for his tribe in Papua New Guinea. Well, it seemed to me to be entirely improbable that Jews ever historically got to Papua New Guinea. But the idea that there was somebody from a group which had been cannibalistic until shortly before the Second World War should be asking the question about lost tribes and Jews and genetics was deeply fascinating. So I said, well, yeah, I mean, it could be interesting. And so a couple of days later, I was called down to the lobby of the hotel, and this gentleman turned up from Papua New Guinea. And he came up to my room and he had a hat with him. And he proffered the hat and said, I've got something very important in this hat. And he'd got 100 or so strands of hair, which he'd taken from from members of his tribe. And so what he wanted me to do, which in fact was...
Why would tribal chiefs take, that sound like some DNA stuff. Like they know about the science. Why would tribal leaders go and meet with him and say, we the ancient people? And they want to prove it. Oh, I forgot, but y'all not into DNA. Okay, never mind. Never mind. It makes sense. It makes sense. They in slow Africa backwards, but y'all over here with the high science. Y'all don't believe it, but they're trying to, okay, I see what's going on.
Theoretically feasible was to take the hair back and have the DNA extracted from
Tony.
a strand of hair. But in fact, it wasn't able to work that way. And so I had to, if I was going to do it, I had to go back to Papua New Guinea. And I went back and listened to the stories and the tales that they had, which associated them in some way with the people of Israel. And eventually, they were getting deeper and deeper into their desire to be Jewish or to study Judaism. And so I thought it would be a great idea to take the Sussmans on a trip which I organized, I guess it was in 2013. So a group of students from FIU and the Sussmans went to Papua New Guinea, and I guess the idea was essentially to instruct them in Hebraic matters, and Rabbi Sussman played a very leading role in this, and they really wanted confirmation as a group that the DNA studies that we'd done proved their claim to be Jewish, which it didn't. And of course, on a previous trip, I went quite a number of times. I'd found myself on a small island surrounded.
He said it did or it didn't. What did he say now? Don't stop making up stuff he did. What did he say it did or didn't? Let me park right here because these folks, they'll get to hearing what they want to hear. That girl said he loved me. Now he said he wanted to take you to the hotel. Those are two different things. We got to make sure we hearing the right thing. But you're equating, in your sick mind, you're equating Motel 6. You're equating the motel with love. He told you what he wanted to do.
By 500 or 600 heavily armed tribesmen who were desperate to learn from me that DNA had proved that they were Jewish. And so I had to be a little bit, well, I suppose, circumspect about the answer that I gave, which I suppose you could call mealy-mouthed, but it wasn't certainly a direct refutation of their hopes and aspirations. In my mind, it doesn't really matter. I don't think DNA makes any difference about anything, really. It might prove some historical movement back in remote history. It could conceivably do that.
Okay. That's ridiculous, red letter. That's where Parfitt goes off. That does not disprove Israelite ancestry. Why is that? Because they could be converts, and converts don't have to be DNA. All right, a few people saying play it back. Let's go, because I don't want no confusion. Let me see if this far enough.
Circumspect about the answer that I gave, which I suppose you could call mealy-mouthed, but it wasn't certainly a direct refutation of their hopes and aspirations. In my mind, it doesn't really matter. I don't think DNA makes any difference about anything, really. It might prove some historical movement.
Now wait, I'll play him, and I can't lie. Matter of fact, somebody help me find Noam Chomsky when they asked about the DNA, Khazar theory, and all of that stuff, Khazarian theory, I think, and he might have threw DNA away also. Let me see. I got to see what Noam Chomsky had to say about this. We played him the other day.
Movement back in remote history, it could conceivably do that, but it certainly doesn't make anybody Jewish or make any group Jewish.
Okay, I have to stop and listen to what Seminary Code said. But what about oral tradition? The problem is, well, let me just read what he say first. What about oral tradition? Do claims not equate to factual history? Yes. That's how people continue to say the 400 years, we the Israelites that came over here, 100 years from now, that is going to be established fact. Well, it used to be with oral tradition. Once something oral is just as powerful or more powerful, from chiefs, from elders in ancient African tribes, is more powerful. That's something written down in a book. That's how people's history were passed down among Indians, among Africans. Oral tradition is extremely powerful, and I think people tend to forget that right now. What do people say about themselves? I don't know if y'all gonna like that. Jews throw DNA away usually because they have a halakhic definition of what it means to make one Jewish. So I guess we can't be mad at Israelites for doing the same thing. Y'all heard Bruce yesterday. Say what y'all want. Bruce is like a retired One West elder. Let me leave my friends. I ain't got no friends. I talk about people too much.
Judaism is not a strand of DNA or anything like it. So still, it has been a very interesting ride, the genetic ride.
Okay, so now let's talk about your new book, Hybrid Hate, that can be bought on Amazon. I think we're putting up a link to it. There'll be a coupon attached to it. It's published by Oxford, and I think it's coming out November 6th. What prompted you to write this book?
Well, I rather prematurely, and I'm sorry about that, moved to the question of my frustration and fury when I discovered that there was a Jewish community in Africa that I hadn't written about. And this came about really rather by chance, as I was reading a book that had been written, or rather published, in 1777 by a German missionary who had gone to the what we call the West Indies, the Caribbean, to study a particular German missionary group there, which had a number of slaves. And he had interviewed these slaves, and one of the slaves told him the following tale, that according to a slave who had come from Loango, which now we could have that map up, it's on the west coast of Africa, and it was an independent African kingdom until the end of the 19th century. Quite a well-organized place. You can see it up here. And so he said that in Loango there was a group of black Jews, and they didn't eat with the Negroes. I'm just using the best translation of the German Neger in the context of the time, and that they didn't speak on the Sabbath. They didn't talk to the Negroes. They themselves were Negroes. They looked exactly the same as everybody else.
I got a park right there. Got a park right there. Somebody said the same thing. They were dropping videos, but y'all were mad and didn't want to play these videos no more because he ignorant. He say ignorant stuff. I say ignorant stuff. Wait a minute, Van Harris. They dark and we dark. And remember the broken clock doctrine. The broken clock doctrine. Bruce even said sometimes they were all dark. I feel like putting the link out right now, but it's going to cause too much confusion. And I want to lose the few supporters we got right now, but boy, oh boy, this Tudor Parfitt, I went and got the scholar so we can listen to the scholar ourselves. And we can all stop and we can think about what we're hearing being said. It was dark people and other dark people, and they were black. And then I hate to even bring up them other demons. They said Zondervan said black, but not the Negro. Oh, this is just. Let me just act like I didn't even hear that part. That's what we do a lot of times in the church. Let's just skip over that right there.
And they had a separate.
Hey, y'all, I'll tell you, my baby be talking. I be having that earpiece in. I'm listening to Parfitt and the video playing, and my baby just be talking and da 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 and da 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 da. And I'm like, boy, this one talk too much for me. But I feel good. I felt good on the inside because you think I'm listening, I ain't even listening. But I'm playing like I'm listening, but I got the earpiece in and I'm listening. I'm on a whole different TikTok. I'm on a whole different lecture podcast. I got to act like I ain't even here. Got to let this keep going. Because some wicked in me want to play it back. But I can't do that. Got to keep going and just act like I ain't even hear
that. Cemetery, and on the gravestones, which were prepared before a body was inserted into them, by a particular stone mason who would come and do it. There were painted probably images of snakes and.
Wait a minute. Let me stop. Look, Red Letter. Look where the light-skinned people start feeling left out. Look where the light-skinned people are. Blood or not, we can all agree that a lot of melanated folk adopted the traditions. This where Bruce, don't make me call Bruce on you, Gia. You see how he did Professor Covey? Don't make me call. He'll get the blowing and he'll get the cut. Don't make me bring the people to cuss you out, Gia. Fair use. Fair use.
Lizards. So it was a really very, very surprising thing to read, and it was difficult to imagine what the role of these snakes and lizards were, and how the slave in question knew about this particular community. And sort of looking around at the usual sources in.
I hate these people. He said he'd been listening to Dante's video. Oh, man, I can't do it.
You know, Jewish history, or
I'm too obsessed with this stuff.
African history, African studies, books about Loango, anything that you could think might be relevant to.
They emailed me, let it go, Berea. We done dealt with. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
A really odd Jewish community. There was nothing. And if you look today, you will not really find anything at all. But, and that's the beginning of this new book, the one that's coming out, I think actually towards the end of October. what I did discover was that it became a really hot topic among Enlightenment thinkers by the end of the 18th century. Okay, it's published in 1777. Immediately the following year, there's a big discussion of the importance of this from a racial point of view, from a biological point of view, and it spread. And so soon, Enlightenment.
Now, many of the Enlightenment thinkers were deists and Freemasons that already had, besides the degree work in the lodge, in the Blue Lodge, there was already among the Enlightenment thinkers some things. And it's built on Bible. Y'all did say yourselves that some folk, everywhere they would go, they would put names and biblical names on people. Remember the guy that started Mormon Church, he was a Freemason too, thinking too, these are Bible people, these Indians that's left over here. And that stuff, Dana Stevenson and y'all and two sticks coming together and all of that stuff. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But let's know why certain people were saying certain things. Like Enlightenment thinkers brought us to a new era in thinking.
Racial scholars, biologists, geographers, all kinds of people involved in the German Enlightenment, French Enlightenment, and British Enlightenment. They were fascinated by the idea that that Jews could be black.
The white folk, y'all. White mystics, Freemasons, and thinkers. And he talked about various disciplines. They were obsessed with the fact that Jews could be black. I got to park right here. I could never get my life together messing around with y'all. I got to park right here. Now, this is Tudor Parfitt, remember, because we've been telling them, get degrees in the field. They don't understand exegy. Hebrew, we always got to get at least to hear what 1, 2, 3 of the professionals in the field have to say. He's what they call one of the foremost. What I mean when I use that word, foremost scholars in the field. This is his little area of expertise, Oxford. Oh, that's big stuff. That's big stuff right there. Now, I wonder if I ever blocked unlimited keys, because I mean, some people, to be honest, I time me block. Some of y'all have been around a long time. I gotta block y'all before y'all get that old ignorant. I told you so spirit. That nonsense I don't want to read. Foremost, yes, leading in that area. Foremost, come on, best. Now, what do we do with that? Now, listen to this. I'm gonna give this to Jay Jacks and Ryan Harrison here in Red Letter. I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna give this to certain people on Berean TV. I agree that they were and are black Jews, but how can one distinguish? I can't believe that my mind keep letting me call that ignorant Bruce. This is how come I can't never say shit, because I'll say something to talk about somebody, then the next day in my mind be thinking I'm quarterbacking this thing. So let me bring ignorance Bruce on here to say what y'all have already heard. On Berean TV, there were black Jews, but how can one distinguish between a black Jew and an African Negro today if they looked alike then? I asked the question when Nathaniel and them go to Nigeria, they just want to go preach to anybody whose spirit is quickened. Elder Green told me some interesting stuff. I ain't gonna bring it up this morning. That he was telling me this morning. I'm probably a dirty, filthy African. Because this stuff, not that reason inside and that side hanging out with them and talking that talk with them dreads and them Freemasons and them other dudes got my mind going. And don't think my mind need to be renewed because I'm not accepting what y'all that's been thoroughly debunked. We don't need to. No. Y'all can't give me that religious nonsense. My mind thinking y'all can't put what y'all would call y'all anointing or the mind of Christ and that colonized European garbage. Y'all can't give me that in the name of Jesus in the Bible. Doesn't make a difference, but how can we know today? This is one of the best questions. J. Jack said, well, the people that came over here, I guess they ain't have no tribal markings, no tattoos, no big whole lobes in their ears and plates in their lips. I think we need to park right here. Now somebody's going to go and say, there's neither male, no female. No, today's maybe not your day. It's okay, come back another time. Somebody else said, I left and came back, and y'all talking about the same thing. Now, he said intellectual, enlightened thinkers was talking about this 100 years ago. Now it's jumping on the internet. I tell you, I was building with Dreads and Freemasons and all of them in 91, in 90. Dr. Benbro wrote We the Black Jews in 67. Let me just leave this whole thing alone. This is just another laugh.
Okay. Now, why were they so fascinated? Their fascination actually rather mirrored my own fascination. So I felt a personal involvement in this. I couldn't really understand, for instance, why, me and my colleagues had been laboring in the groves of academe for years when I wrote my first book about the Ethiopian Jew. It wasn't my first book, it was a book about the Ethiopian Jews. And all of a sudden, my stuff was on the front pages of all the newspapers in the world, pretty much. It had fantastic publicity. And similarly, when I did...
He started talking about the Post. He started talking about major newspapers with the Wall Street people, the intellectuals. Outside of New York, Charlotte, the banking down there, that's big stuff. Them people read them fancy newspapers. And his articles, he got hundreds of articles. Peer reviewed. I'm talking about top scholar stuff, and they've been talking about it, and top newspapers and stuff have posted these findings. Talking about, I don't care about this stuff. Jesus is the way.
My first book on the Lemba, I finished up on 60 minutes, and it was on the front page of the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, all over the place. Fantastic.
Wall Street Journal, New York Times. That's not hood newspapers. They don't read that in the projects. 60 minutes. Oh, but they said it's been hidden. They've been hiding it from us. Why the hood always slow to? Let me just stop interrupting this man. Let this man talk. The faster he talks, the faster we can just forget what he's saying and keep moving on.
Incredible publicity. Why? Why is it, I thought, that Black Jews are so deeply troubling to Western sensibilities? It really puzzled.
Why Parfitt got me want to put that link out there, so this muck running could begin. Why Black Jew? Matter of fact, never mind. Matter of fact, let me shut this live down. Now, at least it'll be fair to finish playing this. I'm gonna shut it down after that. There ain't nothing to talk about here. Ain't nothing happening. Just keep it moving.
Me for a long time, and it was interesting. It was fascinating to see that Enlightenment scholars at the end of the 18th century were equally puzzled. And the reason that they were puzzled, why were they puzzled? They were puzzled because they didn't know how they became Black. And they thought that maybe it was a question of climate. And there were lots of people who would come out and say, yeah, if you take an Englishman and you plant him in Central Africa, leave him there for 10, 15, 20 years, he'll turn Black. So this would be the explanation. And so this was a proof, if you like.
They became Black because of the sun. They became Black because of the sun. Take them and put them there 15, 20 years because of the sun. Because in their mind, how did they become Black? They had to have been white because Adam. Never mind. Because the original man is. Never mind.
This was a great proof that climate is the thing that determines race. And this fed into a much wider debate, which Bonnie, I think, can introduce.
I think this leads us to the discussion of The difference in the book, you use the phrase monogenism and polygenism. Is this the question you're looking for, Dr. Parfitt?
Yes, I think that's exactly right.
Please explain what they mean and how they shed light on today's issues of race relations.
Well, in the same way that over the last 6 months, despite everything else that is going on in the world, we have been riven with an international debate about race, which one might think to be unprecedented, but it's not, because from the last couple of decades, probably of the 18th century, right through until the Second World War, there was an ongoing debate which was absolutely at the heart of intellectual interest throughout Europe and the United States and other Western countries about the origins of mankind. And so the two main arguments went like this pretty much, that either the Judeo-Christian Muslim idea of Adam and Eve was true, in which case we're all one human family, or, and this is called monogenism. Monogenism means that, there was one father and one mother of mankind, and we are ultimately all the same, or that there were different founder events in different parts of the world, and the different races were the product of quite different ancient ancestors, and that the races concerned could not possibly, under any circumstances, change. Races were immutable, both in terms of their physical, biological properties, but also in terms of their spiritual or intellectual capacities. The racial age, according to me, and I've, the book I've been thinking about writing is not quite the book that I'm writing at the moment. The next book, the book after that, will be looking at the racial age from a certain point of view, and I could talk about that if you'd like me to know. But do stop me if you think it's going off on a tangent. The racial age really starts at the end of the 17th century with the work.
The racial age, just remember, honestly, said the race was the game, the finesse.
A particular French medical man called Francois Bernier. And he was the first person to suggest that the world was divided into races. Nobody thought in those terms before. Francois Bernier.
Before that, nobody thought that way. Are y'all thinking the way Francois taught y'all to think? Yeah, the Bible speaks about nations, but the Bible says one blood. Of course, if we couple what Tudor Parfitt is saying on top and we put scripture on it, or vice versa, the scripture is the foundation, and we add his commentary to it and his expertise to it. I can't say that because y'all other people come at it because somebody can't have the expertise in the language if they ain't got the Holy Ghost. If they don't keep the Sabbath, they can't teach you Hebrew. And this other nonsense the weak religious mind thinks of. Because remember now, all of y'all, he preaching to some of y'all, and he ain't saved. But he's confirming some things as a specialist in the field. What do you do when you need the ungodly for open heart surgery? What do you do then? Because you folk, let me leave you Bible thumpers alone.
Yeah, at all. And it seems very...
Because y'all don't believe God used the ungodly until y'all meet the ungodly.
Very, very odd. There's always a great discussion, let's say, among American historians about, what comes first in America? Is it race or is it slavery? And the truth is that when slavery started, nobody was thinking in terms of race. So it could be that that slavery, in a way, developed into racial prejudice. Or it could be that sort of pre-racial prejudice, which is a kind of generalized prejudice on the basis of the metaphor of black, had some impact upon people and their treatment of African slaves when they got to the Americas. But it's a big kind of intellectual discussion. And so the racial age, anyway, starts around the end of the 17th century. It was developed through the 18th century. All of the kind of different gradations of race and the pyramids of race were developed in the second half of the 18th century, and then really became standard thinking by the middle of the 19th century. And the people doing all of this kind of racial structuring, they were all polygenists, because they all felt that race was the most incredibly important thing in the world. It was more important than religion. It was more important than history. It was more important than politics. It really was all of those things. And it wasn't that these people were particularly, bad or nasty people. It was what some of them were, by the way, but it was really what they believed. And on the other hand, you had the monogenists who believed, no, everybody's essentially the same. Some are more developed for historical, economic reasons and so on. But underneath the skin, we're all the same people. We all go back to Adam and Eve. And so why then, all of a sudden, do the people that we're all interested in this group, everybody here is interested in the question of Jews, as we say, of color throughout the world. I mean, that's one of these are the groups, Kulanu and me, we've been very interested in. And they've been marginal. They're still very, very marginal. They're very, very marginal in terms of, let's say, Jewish historians, in terms of the state of Israel, in terms of what people are thinking about in the kind of general, Jewish journals in the United States and newspapers, occasionally an article here, an article there. It's marginal stuff. However, at the end of the 18th century and for the first half of the 19th century, Jews of color were not marginal. They were mainstream preoccupations of people. That's something which I'm the first person to point out.
What did he just say? What did he just mean by what he just said? What did he just mean by what he just said?
It was interesting for racial theorists, a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that you've got, for the first time, the idea that Jews are multicolored, right? And so that in itself is kind of interesting, but the underlying thing is the proof that this provides to the monogenists. And they took up the cause of all of the black, brown Jewish communities throughout the world, like it was the most fabulous thing that they could imagine in support of their own ideas. And they would spend their times traveling the world and looking for new black Jewish communities, and they could bring these back and feed them into the racial kind of machine. And it was simply this, that if Jews can change racial look, if they can change face, if they can change color, as they did in the case of, apparently in the case of the Jews of Loango, or as they did in the case of the black Jews of Cochin in Kerala, or as they apparently did in the case of the Bnei Israel of Bombay in Western India, or as it apparently did in the case of Jews who were living at the time in the Sahara, or as it appeared to be with Jewish communities who, according to travelers, were at the time living in the Jordan Valley, about whom I sadly know not nearly as much as I would like to know, and various other groups. All of these kind of black Jewish groups, brown, they were all kind of dragoon as part of the whole.
Kobe, you in the office? Listen to Seminary Cove now, y'all. Now this is the problem here. I heard black Jews were common, but I also heard him state that start this lecture by saying their DNA didn't agree with their they were originally Jewish. All black Jews DNA or just one group? And then what did we say with oral tradition and their DNA and what people said, who you're going to compare their DNA to those in the Levant? Or did they find Jacob and the 12 tribes? Now, how do we proceed with DNA and oral tradition on top of scripture? Remember, he still ain't promoting no 400 years. Said, I know how to separate all this stuff because y'all, that mean the 400 year true. That mean, no. Let's just make sure we deal with what he's saying. Because y'all are taking somewhere it ain't going. And then y'all will be promoting that thing like that Putin thing, like that picture with Stevie Wonder and that cell phone, and it could be something different. But now what do we do with DNA? Oral tradition and scripture. Of course, they can say scripture trump everything, but different people have different interpretations of scripture and passages. Fair use.
The crusade of proving the unified origins of mankind. What a noble thing that turned out to be. And of course, with Darwin, that pretty much marks the end of Polygenism, except that even today there are genetic scientists who fiddle around with the proof in such a way that it looks as if there are races and that they're kind of significantly different from each other, but it really is not the case. And the Nazis, of course, were deeply wedded to the polygynist paradigm, and particularly the idea that races could not change. So the Jews, they constructed as being a sort of mishmash, almost an unrace, but deeply dangerous to the racial purity of the Reich, but unchanging. They'd been unchanged and unchanging for thousands of years, as indeed had the Aryans and other racial groupings.
So should we go to the question about conflation? What does conflation mean? Were there different kinds of conflation of Jews and blacks over time? Or should we go to the question of looking at your slides?
Well, let me quickly just deal, because the conflation is in the title of my...
Uh-oh, Professor Covey, listen. Yap Gang Scholarship said, when Tudor and I discussed taking DNA samples in the Americas, for him it was based on connection to the Lemba and the Loango people, Jews. 99% of us don't descend from either groups. Dang. Matter of fact, let me leave that there for a minute.
And I think just to say what I mean by it would be a good introduction really to the slides. And Bonnie sort of mentioned very kindly a chapter in that 2013 book. And there was nothing original about that. There's a great scholar by the name of Sander Gilman, who really is the father of all studies about the perceptions of the body of the Jew. He's an extraordinary scholar, and I owe a huge amount to everything that he's written, and I admire him enormously. And so a long time ago, he wrote that there was a kind of medieval perception that Jews were black. And there's plenty of proof that within Europe, the Jews were considered to be kind of black. There are many images of Jews being black, and even if they weren't black, they were not even slightly black. They were kind of considered to be black in one way or another. So blackness and Jews really went hand in hand. If you read his work, or if you read my work, and particularly if you read this new book, you will see the multitude of examples of it.
Blackness and Jews go hand in hand. Blackness and Jews go hand in hand. I told them folk, if y'all gonna bang, y'all gotta bang with the folks that are putting out the majority information. Y'all gotta get on them. Told them folk, if I was a recognized apologist, I'd be on top of it. I have a channel dedicated. I'd have a team of people dedicated to all the work that one individual putting out. But no, y'all would rather come on here with that Wayne State garbage and then slide. Never mind, I didn't want to bring that up. Y'all rather run around here and play games and get out here and talk about that's been thoroughly debunked. Amount to just lying to people now. Oh, well, ain't nobody really thinking about no Israelite, that Israelite black Jew. Ain't nobody really thinking about that right now. And the numbers in their biblical discussions on their live videos show the opposite. So that's what I'm saying. Y'all can't tell me about that Holy Ghost stuff. Because sometimes some church people, and that don't mean I'm part of this awakening. And this garbage these folk talking about. Y'all gonna get it to get raping white women, and y'all got a God that wants y'all to rape white women. Not that garbage. But then I got to think about what them other guys said. They said maybe the camps are part of the government to tear something down. Misinformation was big in COINTELPRO and when we start, even with the protocols, and we go back to Nazi Germany, misinformation, and in Europe, the Jews watering the well to get the people to turn on folk and hate folk. I read the Bible, but I remember some parts of history, and I know tools that have been used against other people. I tell you, we chasing folk out the project. Yo, we touched a little girl. No, we want to get them. So that everybody gonna run and grab them for us. Then we take them somewhere and do them dirty, throw them in the trunk. I'm sorry, my example is no good. Let me just let this play. It's just a strange, crazy world we're living in, y'all. Couple on top of the fact you could say what you want. Somebody was going to church, and after church hanging folk and burning folk. Somebody was terrorizing some folk and burning crosses. On top of that, somebody Protestant had a slave or two and looked down on another people using Bible. Everybody doing this based on using Bible, slavery and beating slaves. So we got to address some stuff. I'm going to address some stuff none of y'all want to deal with. Slaves and beating them in the Bible. Just don't beat them too bad. Indentured servant chattel. We got to, because all of y'all claiming a morality. So I'm going to show y'all some other things that we all have to deal with. We all need an apologetic if you say you believe that book. Because the God of that book said some stuff that I might not look at as that's kind of rough to me, reading it right now. We'll discuss that later on.
And if you go, for instance, into the marginalia, the illustrations in English or European prayer books in the 13th and 14th centuries, you frequently see hook-nosed Jews wearing Jewish hats and with black faces. So the idea that Jews were black was definitely there, before the Enlightenment period. And
so let's go to the slides now.
Just a sec, because I just need to say, in the 19th century, the idea of Jewish blackness was reinforced by the discovery of all of these actual black Jews in India and Africa, all over the place. And by 1850, the main racial theorists of the day started saying that, yes, actually, Jews are Negroes. Negroes, in some way, are also Jews. This is the conflation. It's partly political, it's partly metaphorical, and it's very, very significantly biological. I'm ready to go to the slides if you think.
No, it's like picturing.
Covey, what's being said right here? What did he just say right there? What did he say right there? Fair use.
The Jews as chameleons of some sort, right? They're like pick up the identity of the place where they live or something.
Yes, I mean, I think that's certainly part of 20th century anti-Semitic discourses that they take on the colorings of wherever they are, and you can never tell a Jew. And you know, one of the great problems the Nazis had was that, according to Nazi theory, you could tell a Jew by looking at him. You know, a Jew is obvious. He's physically obvious. He's black, for a start. And he's got a Jewish face. He's got a Jewish body. He's got Jewish ears. He's got Jewish hair. He's got Jewish everything. Except when it comes to it, you couldn't actually tell the difference between a Gentile and a Jew in the area of the Third Reich. And all of the thousands, tens of thousands of studies that were done measuring noses and measuring ears and measuring, you know, forehead slant, all of the kinds of things that they were doing in the second half of the first half of the 19th century and even into the 20th century, they proved to come up with a single thing that would help in the identification of Jews. So at a time when the Nazis desperately needed to be able to identify Jews so they could murder them, they didn't actually have any way of doing it physically. They had to rely upon documents, and they had to rely upon spies, and they had to rely upon the concierge at the bottom of the stairs who said, "Ah, Monsieur Cohen, il est en bas." Oh, you know, that sort of thing. But when it came to taking somebody in, looking at them in the face and saying, yes, that guy is Jewish and we can prove it because of X, Y, and Z, they couldn't do it at all. And they desperately tried to do it throughout the period of the Third Reich. And so all kinds of studies were done to try and prove that the ears or the nose or whatever it might be, blood types was a favorite for a while until it was shown that there were no blood types that were unique to Jews at all, etc., etc.
Okay, let's go to the slides now.
So this is just the slide which we don't really need now. This is just showing where Loango is, and you know, after the initial mention in 1777 of the Jews, black Jews of Loango, there was a German expedition exactly 100 years later to the area of Loango Coast, and there are three big fat German tomes that emerged from this scientific visit, and there we have a lot more information about them. Sadly, very little is known, if anything, about their cultural or religious practices, but we do know that they were there. They were exactly where the slave back in the 1770s had said that they were. They had a specific culture. They were relatively well off. They were traders, etc., etc. So actually a very, very interesting community. And what is deeply fascinating is that as my dear friend Nathan DeVere, who is the greatest of scholars on the subject of the Jews of Africa, wonderful, wonderful scholar, and you should certainly be looking him up and buying his books. He's a great, great man. He's traveled everywhere and he's fearless. So he's told me about Judaizing movements in and around the area of the Jewish community of Loango in the present day. And it would be really interesting to see if there's any connection. But the latest piece of information I have about the community is something coming from the 1950s or early 1960s, which suggests that they moved inland towards the end of the 19th century, probably, and they went to the edge of the rain forest, a little to the north of the purple mauve area of Loango here, and intermarried with pygmies in the area of the, as I said, of the rainforest. You know, if there's any connection between them and Judaizing manifestations today, I'd be really interested. I don't know if there are, but future scholars.
I'm sorry. Hold on. You want me to put the link out? I had to step away. You heard me, Covey? You want to put the link out? I had to step away. I missed off. I don't know what's going on. I got thrown off. Then I called Elder. I'm on the phone chopping it up with Elder. Back how far, Covey? I'm gonna put the link out just so you can jump on. I don't need nobody come on here bothering me right now today. I don't need nobody come on here bothering me right now today. Covey, if you want to jump on, you want to say something on this. But that's it. Let me how far back? I don't know. I must have missed. From time y'all didn't hear me, I walked away from the computer and got on the phone and couldn't hear nothing that was playing or anything. So you might have to tell me where, Covey. I know y'all a little bit behind. Y'all harping on what is Harris is saying? Let's go back 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Let's go back 5 minutes. Okay. Where are we at? 50. I'll go to 45 then. All of this? Okay. All right. Type one if that's good. My bad.
No, it's like picturing the Jews as chameleons of some sort, right? They're like pick up the identity of the place where they live.
Adopting the culture, you say? Okay.
Yes, I mean, I think that's certainly part of 20th century anti-Semitic discourses that they take on the colorings of wherever they are, and you can never tell a Jew. And you know, one of the great problems the Nazis had was that, according to Nazi theory, you could tell a Jew by looking at him. You know, a Jew is obvious. He's physically obvious. He's black, for a start. And he's got a Jewish face, he's got a Jewish body, he's got Jewish ears, he's got Jewish hair, he's got Jewish everything. Except when it comes to it, you couldn't actually tell the difference between a Gentile and a Jew in the area of the Third Reich. And all of the thousands, tens of thousands of studies that were done measuring noses and measuring ears and measuring, you know, forehead slant, all of the kinds of things that they were doing in the first half of the 19th century and even into the 20th century, they proved to come up with a single thing that would help in the identification of Jews. So at a time when the Nazis desperately needed to be able to identify Jews so they could murder them,
hey, yo, why the other
they didn't actually have any way of doing it physically. They had to rely upon documents, and they had to rely upon spies, and they had to rely upon the concierge at the bottom of the stairs who said, Monsieur Cohen, il est en bas. Oh, you know, that sort of thing. But when it came to taking somebody in, looking at them in the face and saying, yes, that guy is Jewish and we can prove it because of X, Y, and Z, they couldn't do it at all. And they desperately tried to do it throughout the period of the Third Reich. And so all kinds of studies were done to try and prove that the ears or the nose or whatever it might be, blood types was a favorite for a while until it was shown that there were no blood types that were unique to Jews at all, etc., etc.
Okay, let's go to the slides now.
So this is just the slide which we don't really need now. This is just showing where Loango is, and you know, after the initial mention in 1777 of the Jews, black Jews of Loango, there was a German expedition exactly 100 years later to the area of Loango coast, and there are three big fat German tomes that emerged from this scientific visit. And there we have a lot more information about them. Sadly, very little is known, if anything, about their cultural or religious practices, but we do know that they were there. They were exactly where the slave back in the 1770s had said that they were. They had a specific culture. They were relatively well off. They were traders, etc., etc. So actually a very, very interesting community. And what is deeply fascinating is that, as my dear friend Nathan DeVere, who is the greatest of scholars on the subject of the Jews of Africa, wonderful, wonderful scholar, and you should certainly be looking him up and buying his books. He's a great, great man. He's traveled everywhere and he's fearless. So he's told me about Judaizing movements in and around the area of the Jewish community of Loango in the present day. And it would be really interesting to see if there's any connection. But the latest piece of information I have about the community is something coming from the 1950s or early 1960s, which suggests that they moved inland towards the end of the 19th century, probably, and they went to the edge of the rain forest, a little to the north of the purple mauve area of Loango here, and intermarried with pygmies in the area of the, as I said, of the rainforest. You know, if there's any connection between them and Judaizing manifestations today, I'd be really interested. I don't know if there are, but future scholars will be able to tell us perhaps in due course. But it would be very interesting to do a DNA study on that group if they're still there. So that's that slide. So this is one of the kind of interesting depictions. This is Caiaphas appearing, Jesus appearing before the high priest Caiaphas, and then the people in the back are Jews. As you can see, they're black and they've got hook noses, and they're looking a bit sinister. And these kind of stereotypical Jewish faces are totally you know, usual, if you like, in the illustrations to be found in prayer books in England. And there are a couple of wonderful books written by scholars. One, Kaplan, fabulous book, which is looking particularly at the way in which Jews are represented in medieval texts, pictorial texts, or rather illustrated texts. And here's another one. It's a beautiful thing, which would have been part of the.
I'm sorry, I was on the phone. I got a lot going on. I be trying to do this. He said they moved inland. What he said, they moved inland, continue to live in life, not left on ships. You know, we always heard some people say that they were Africans that were inland that caught them and brought them down to the water, and that's why they built them slave ports, them where the dungeons and stuff where they baptized them, and then they were selling to white people. That the Europeans weren't actually going in and getting them; those were Africans getting them, or them warring it, and then they go taking them and selling them. They, you know, they might, the people in their waking might say that right there, Kobe. I missed everything else. I had to try to call about all this other stuff.
Of the robes of an important priest, probably a bishop or something, and it's embroidered. And it's if you're interested, next time you're in the V&A in London, you can try and go and see it. And what you see is Jesus carrying the cross, and what we have is.
Hold on a minute, Gia. Let me ask you a question. Let me see what's your opinion on this. She said it's too many moving parts. From what you're hearing from him, does this verify or make you feel some type of way about some of the Israelites that have been coming on here talking, or it's just still a bunch of pure black power garbage and nonsense? That's what I want to hear. All the, not just Gia, all the Christians that's not claiming Israel, like myself, I'm not claiming Israel. Is it a bunch of garbage and nonsense? Or is he saying some stuff that some other people have been saying? Tell me, do me a favor. If you Israel, and I know you Israel in here, and you comment, out of darkness you shall go. Today you will. I'm not talking to y'all right now. I'm asking Gia and the Christians, is he saying anything? Or it's he's saying something different from the other people and they're still misusing sources? Is he saying anything that you heard on here, being a scholar, and you heard it from somebody that wasn't a scholar, but just the Israelite? Do you think, have your mind changed in any way, or this still does nothing? Hell is their portion. Only Christians that do not claim Israel. Anybody else? Stop, everybody, stop typing right now. Only talking to one group of people. Fair use.
A black person beating him. And given that there are no Africans mentioned in the Old Testament, at least with respect to the period of Jesus, nothing in this period. The assumption is that this may be
sensational, Tim. One thing I can say is, but there, that's part of conspiracy out here anyway, that you think you Israel on the low, but you just don't want to say it. They don't sound as left field as they once did. I thank you. I thank you for at least saying that. Now there's just a couple of moves we can make right here. We can throw Tudor Parfitt under the bus, because we might be able to research and find out he has a bastard baby out there, and that'll disqualify him. That's the nonsense that we do sometimes. Sometimes we, not everybody, but people have been known to do stuff like that. Or when he made a baby back in 1981, or he went to Africa and he slept with a lady and made a baby, so everything he say is devil worship and is disqualified. Go ahead, Mo. You got 5 minutes. What are your thoughts on that? Thank you, Dispensational Tim. I'll be right back, y'all.
Yeah, I just wanted to clear up some stuff, because a lot of people don't understand the depth of what Tudor's talking about in terms of what that does to a lot of Israelite claims in particular, whatnot, right? So when I specifically say that 99% of us don't descend from the groups he's talking about, we literally, again, I'm going to ask the question: how do we descend from groups of people who didn't leave Africa? Like, we got to think about that, fam. Like, so these particular groups that are talked about in Ouida and in Loango and whatnot, a lot of the scholarship that we have, and you're going to see a lot of people putting out sources from these people from after the 1800s and whatnot, right? From the early 1800s and whatnot, when legal slavery from Africa to North America stopped,
and we've been here,
still there, and they're in.
Right, listen, I'm sorry. Listen, somebody want to come with that now? Don't turn around and email me. I got to show you how many emails I got last night. If y'all got something to say to more, say it right now. Don't go think about it, then come back emailing me 2 o'clock in the morning. Say it right now. It sounds like he's riding with Garfield. These ain't them people. Y'all not connected to them people. It sounds like that. But I'm busy on the phone and doing other stuff. So somebody want to come up here and discuss that with him on that subject right now. Do it right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, real talk. If y'all want to prove our connection to the Loango Jews into the people of Sao Tome and Principe and all them, hey, come on and do it, fam. But we don't have that evidence as of yet, fam. We don't have, and when it comes to the Lemba whatnot, what we know for a fact, the majority of us don't come from them, fam. A, the Lemba are a small group of people. B, we don't see we haven't seen anybody with their DNA yet in the Americas and whatnot, right? Everybody's talking about a Lemba connection based upon Jed match or something from Machu ancestry and whatnot, right? Those are autosomal tests based upon a genetic profile of the fact that the Lemba, out of all the people in East Africa that they put on their list, have the most European admixture. Hence for that reason, we match up with the Americans, match up with them, because we have a lot of European admixture. That's it. The only reason why those tests say we match with the Lemba is because we both have European admixture. That's it. There's no test out there that I literally was trying to get trying to get the whole squad over there with Dante and them and whatnot to rally behind the fact that since Dante's E1B1B, we should use this as a chance to go do more DNA collects to see if we do connect to people like them, because they do have E1B1As that we haven't been able to fully parse out, etc. They do have a couple some E1B1B that Dante might have connected to. We don't know. But Dante wanted to take the route that he comes from, you know what I'm saying? He comes from these Sephardic Jews and whatnot, right? So they don't even want that connection, fam. But when it comes to the Loango Jews and the people of Ouida, fam, y'all are reaching for something that ain't there. It ain't there. And so where do I disagree with people like Garfield? I literally point to the pockets of West African Jewry that you can't wave away. Instead, y'all want to focus on the pockets of West African Jewry we don't even connect to. The majority of us don't, at least. And these people that are there, like in Ouida, they're literally telling you out their own mouth what they practice. They got serpent deities and they got serpent divinity. They got all kinds of stuff dealing with serpents. They ain't got nothing to do with Judaism and whatnot. And Garfield's correct. The Judaism that the people in that the Sephardic Jews are dealing with are not the stuff y'all are talking about and whatnot, right? So let's slow this down. Let's slow this down all the way. This is coming from the person who has talked to Tudor Parfitt, who's debated Garfield on the opposite end of this thing and whatnot, right? I keep telling you, there's a whole group of people that African Americans actually connect to that y'all aren't looking at because you're too busy trying to make these people in the Loango and Ouida something that they're not. Something that they're not, fam. So if you want to give me any source that even hints to the fact that more than 1% of us could connect to these people, to the Lemba or the people from Loango, I will correct myself live on air, fam. Something that your people won't do, fam. Dante won't do it, Benai won't do it. We Woke Now won't do it. I'll do it. But I'm trying to tell you, I've talked to Tudor. I've talked to these other people, fam.
Hold on. Let's I don't know how much time Second X has got. Second X, you do not agree with more, correct?
Partly. I agree with what he's saying, but I also disagree with the fact that we can't necessarily rule out that some of these different population groups did end up on slave ships. Can we prove it now?
Go ahead. I'll be right back. Go ahead.
I don't have too much long because I have a seminary class from 2:30 to 3:30. It's an extra class, but make a long story short. What we can't do is we can't just sit there and say, here are the Lemba population. They're unique in specific population without thinking about ancient migration patterns. So the Lemba was one of the groups of people that were persecuted by Muslims, and they had to migrate down. Many of the Lemba converted to Islam, and others converted to Christianity, and some kept a Judeo-Hebrew culture. And from what I've read in the history books is that the Lemba were scattered. Even Kohen Hamadishi would say that the Lemba were scattered. And so we do know that there's a group of Lemba that was in Angola. And when, let's say, African Americans like myself, when we take DNA tests, we might see markers that match us up to people in Angola.
What group of Lemba was documented in Angola?
You said what group?
You said we know they were there. What group was documented in Angola?
Yes, Ra Lemba, and you can go to and some of them were taken on slave ships to, I want to believe, Haiti, and they were considered a Levitical class. As far as references, direct primary sources that you may look for, I would highly recommend reading the PDF on the Lemba and their presence in Haiti, and they will give you more information on that. So,
are you talking about the Lemba Limba?
No, Lemba. There's a group that was in Angola and Congo, and there's a group in Tanzania and in South Africa. So they just weren't in just one location when they according to their story, they migrated down from Senna through Yemen, and they established cities. Now we also see Senna located in Judea. There. I don't know. Let me correct myself. There may be, I believe there's a center on the map. You can look it up now. Uh, there's a center either in Egypt or there's a center in Judea. I know that for sure because I saw that when I went to Michelle Obama's cousin's synagogue in Chicago, and one of the members showed me that on the map.
So I'm going to need you to do me a favor, second Exodus. I want you to send me the PDF you're talking about, right? Because I'm going to say this very clearly. I've got more interview time with the Lemba on air than anybody on the internet, fam. Than anybody on the internet, and I've never heard them say what you just said about Angola.
It's on Hebrew Sphere. I put it on. I don't know if Hebrew Sphere is still up, but
Nope.
I can.
My email is theorthodoxmore@gmail.com. I need you to send it to me.
Yeah, I'll send it to you and Brian.
So I've talked to people like Tudor, Parfitt, and people like Dana Marnici about trying to find people who link up to the Lemba in West Africa, and there's been no success as of yet. So that's why I would love to see what you're talking about.
Yeah, I will gladly send that. I will do that as soon as I get back on the house when I'm multitasking in Zoom class. I'll pull it up.
You talking not till after the class is over that you get ready to have?
My class has already started at 2:30. I'm supposed to. It's not a class on the syllabus, but it's something that we're supposed to meet up and listen to the instructors, different academic instructors, speaking to us. So I'm actually 8 minutes late, but I'm playing on that grace period right now.
Oh, okay. All right. So that ain't till tonight then. Somebody send it tonight.
No, I'll send it as soon as I get home. I'm actually driving back from work right at this moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then I'm gonna play some more of this. Fair use.
All right. Bye, everyone.
A black Jew, and that would be consistent with the images that I've already mentioned. So one of the interesting things is the question of the face. And in the 18th century, a new science of physiognomy was formed. And through the face, initially, the idea was that you can, if you really understand the face, and if you understand the science of the face, the real science of the face, then you'll be able to choose a husband or a wife suitably. You can choose a servant. You can select a doctor who's going to be helpful and honest. And going through life, as long as you understand the face, you'll be okay. You can select people according to your understanding of what the face is telling you. And this is a big deal for 100 years at least. And nobody would really take it very seriously now, although there are new movements using computerized images and DNA and stuff, which are looking at physiognomy afresh. But this was taken up by race theorists, and so the idea came that every race has got its own face, and that face is absolutely unchangeable. And so time and time again, you know, Jews and blacks, black Africans is what I mean by that, were brought together because of one signal feature, which is that they both had an unchanging face. You can always tell them, you can go back through history and you can see this unchanging African Jewish face. It wasn't applied to other people, and it was applied to these two groups. And I didn't say before, but I should have done, was that through all of the kind of medieval literature, which is beginning to interest itself in the possibilities of races. I mean, this is really before the beginning of the racial age, as I would understand it. You know, there are two groups that are considered to be completely unique in the history of the world. One are Negroes, as they called them at the time, and one were Jews. So it's blacks and Jews who were the outliers as far as European thought went. And so this image of Memnon in the British museums was very much discussed at the time because it appeared to everybody to incorporate the classical Jewish face. And race theorists went to the places in the East End of London where there were a lot of Jews, and they would come back absolutely flabbergasted that wherever they went, they saw time and time and time again an identical face to that of this Egyptian Memnon. So the next one. So as I said, by the time we get to the period of the Third Reich, there is an absolute conflation of the idea of the Jew and the idea of the black. Both Jews and sub-Saharan Africans were considered to be mortally perilous as far as the racial health of the Third Reich was concerned. And in this image, which has got to do with, you know, the shame of disgrace of race. I mean, the idea of, you know, the idea that German women were fatally attracted to Jews and to blacks is represented in this image and in countless other images. So you have the conflation of the two ideas, and that conflation passes into a whole range of different kinds of discourses, which essentially say what so many people in the medieval period had said, which is that Jews were essentially black. And if we have time, I could just mention briefly, because it's fascinating. As you know, there's no unified Germany until 1871. But once there's a united German Reich, it becomes important for the Germans to assess that this new nation, to assess what kind of nation it was in the racial terms that were popular at the time. And so they decided to mount
Do me a favor, Gideon, what are you talking about? Come on, I put the link. Let me put the link out here so Gideon can come on here and explain what he's talking about. Gideon said, Berean, your channel has become highly anti-Shemitic. But maybe you could come on here and explain what you mean by that if you have a second, brother.
An experiment. And it was an experiment which took in millions and millions and millions of children throughout Germany, which included, of course, Jewish children.
Go ahead, brother. You're unmuted. Type 1 if y'all can hear him. Can you? I can't hear you. Now you're muted.
Yeah, I wasn't speaking. Can you hear me?
Now I can, yes. Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead. Yes. Type 1. Y'all can hear him, right?
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
All praises to Yahshua. Yeah, Brother Berean, what I mean by that is that in the beginning, to me, this was a place where we could go and we could speak on scholarly matters and also religious matters and spiritual matters as well. But the more I listen to the channel, the more I hear the rhetoric that's damaging to not only to Israelites but the truth. And this what I mean by that, Brother Berean, because okay, so this is the truth. The truth is so-called black people are the offspring, are the descendants of Israel. Now, within that, you have a lot of people that have a lot of messed up doctrine, a lot of crazy thoughts about what's going to happen in the afterlife and this and that, which is true. But what I see on this channel, y'all take those positions and y'all use that against the true fact of the matter, which is that the original Israelites and those that were carried in the slave trade were black people, and that the Ashkenaz, most of them, almost all of them, are converts to the religion. Now that's what I see happen on here. Y'all like to skew that up a lot, and y'all take a lot of slander towards all Israelites. I was listening yesterday, and they had a brother on there. You told him he was the only true Israelite you ever seen. So if that's the case, then your message shouldn't be questioning if people are Israelites. You should say that yes, the Israelites are what we call so-called black people, but they're not following the gospel. I would not have a problem with that. But what I have a problem with is the research and the discoveries that are made by black people about the Israelites. You and your panel seem to take that and disregard it and make it seem like it's pseudo. So that's why I say it's anti-Semitic. And then listening to people like Garfield lie over and over again without any real challenges, even from somebody like yourself, because in all actuality, you're supposed to be objective. So that's what I mean by that, my brother.
Okay. All right. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. I'm not even. I can tell y'all one thing that a lot of people may not understand. I'll bring up Israelites right now. They may not come through no more, but they can say Berean single-handed. I'm not everything. For a dumb Negro, convicted felon, uneducated dropout, I did more for urban apologetics and the awakening at the same time than almost anybody else on this internet by just letting folk talk. I thought he was from the block. He don't even know the finesse when he see it. That's what scares me. That's what scares me. Find another channel that somebody doing this on. Now he come with his rhetoric, that nonsense. Oh, black people, we definitely because he want to come and push his beliefs and not get his beliefs to be challenged. This ain't that. He want this channel to be like the other channels where we just going to accept his nonsense. All black people are Israelites, 400-year prophecy, and nobody questioned that. That other broad say what you want. She was with Sister E and them. She said, we all met on Berean TV. Same thing with Young Chimney. Y'all want me to pull it up? We all met on Berean TV. They said, name the top apologist. The other dude said, yo, you can't even leave Berean. I ain't been no apologist. I was around when they start forming that term, urban apologist. They said, yo, you can't leave Berean out. We used to wait for him to drop them 15-minute videos. I done did more for both sides. That's how come y'all funny to me with the way y'all move with this religion. Matter of fact, I'm going to use this as a good point to get y'all some stuff in that Bible. Y'all can't bother me. I'm going to bother y'all back. My mama said I was hard-headed, bro. I did a lot. Say what you want. Shikari and them, I beef back and forth with them when they going back and forth with vocab, 4,400 people. They said, yo, we got to have it on Berean TV. Man, listen. I don't know what you've been listening to. I got some respect on both sides. Folk leaders and the YouTubers, oh, Berean ain't saved. Berean is Berean this, Berean that. But boy, we don't put work in. We don't put some work in for you to say that. I can't even say I feel some type of way because those that know better. It's not a CO fact that blacks in America are Israel, plain and simple. That's your religious belief. That's your belief, and that's okay. I ain't got to move with that. You can move the way everybody else move, just like the Stevie Wonder picture in the video I saw. Oh, the lady showing Stevie Wonder something. Now I look at it differently. They taking a selfie. Go ahead, Garfield. I'm mute myself.
Hey, Moore, go ahead, because you was in the chat, and I just jumped on, so I didn't even know what they were talking about. I just heard my brother Gideon Israel say that I'm wrong, and I go on check. But I'm not even worried about that. I'm gonna let you go more.
So this is an interesting thing, because me and Garfield both have a lot of history with Gideon, right? Like, so me and Gideon used to be on the same debate team, like with Yara back in the SVDL days, when we were kicking it with Christians and all kind of Israelites trying to defend the Bible against the conscious community, and that, right? Gideon is known on Garfield's channel because Gideon goes on Garfield's channel and does the same stuff, the BHI shtick, to where to where he gives the same sources from that we've all seen from all day from like Hebrewisms in West Africa to from Babylon and Timbuktu, and we're all supposed to accept that all African Americans are Jews based upon that, or Hebrew or Israelites based upon that, right? And what's crazy about all this is, so I can't stress this enough, right? Because I've been next to Gideon when he's been trying to prove this point to people, and they keep throwing the same stuff at him that Garfield and other people are bringing up here, and whatnot, that I'm bringing up here, and he won't deal with it. He won't deal with it there. He just puts his head in the sand and keeps saying the same thing over and over again, right? Well, when people like me come to the table with a better argument or whatnot, that gets shot down for the same reason I keep saying it gets shot down from all the other people, from Dante to Sister Eden and whatnot, is because the legitimate arguments that scholarship can provide, the best they can give you is some and not all, fam. That's the best they can give you is some and not all.
Hey,
to say hold on real quick, last and to say this channel is anti-Semitic is ridiculous, fam. Is ridiculous on its face. Because again, why would Bryn have me coming on here like debating Garfield for the proof about people coming off the slave ships and whatnot if this is an anti-Semitic channel? Why is this channel open up to debates for Alizar to debate Dr. Brown or whatnot if this is an anti-Semitic channel? Why is Dante debating vocab over here if this is an anti-Semitic channel or whatnot? Fam? Help me understand, man.
You know what's crazy is that Gideon is on tape saying that he may not be an Israelite. So if our brother Berean,
sure is. That's so crazy. Sure is.
I will
don't pull it up, Doc. Stop being wicked.
I will pull it up right now and play it live so people laugh at this dude right now. He says, I might not be an Israelite. You might not be an Israelite. So if you feel that way, and that's what I'm saying, I don't feel you're an Israelite, why would you be offended? You said it out of your own mouth. You said it out of your own mouth. But let me say this, Berean. It's crazy. Two people that used to cuss me out on Berean's channel, Slick Rod and Sister E. On Clubhouse, we the best of friends. It's crazy. Sister E's like, I know Garfield for years. Yeah, Garfield cool now. We used to go back and we cool. I'm like, what? When on Berean's show and her channel, they used to go in on me, but now we cool. Clubhouse, and we know each other because of who? Brother Berean. But they don't like Garfield because I'm standing on my square for the last 10 years, and I'm not taking it off that square until I'm proven wrong. And I'm going to say this to everybody. We disrespect people because of the color of their skin. This is the problem. You can't claim Jesus and claim the New Testament and be a racist. It is stupid to push skin doctrine and believe in the New Testament. The two don't match. The two don't match up. And then they make the silliest argument. Oh, Paul ran into the Egyptians and the Egyptians was black. Well, Paul wasn't running to the Egyptians. He was running into someone that was called the Egyptian that killed over 20,000 people according to Josephus. So you saying that Paul they're mistaken for an Egyptian, they're mistaken for a rebel, not necessarily because of his skin tone. Simon is called the Niger. Let's say, yeah, he's called the Niger the black. He's the only one in the New Testament called the Niger. Why they didn't call all the apostles Niger?
And why would they single him out if everybody else was dark the same?
Dark skin.
Hold on a minute, Joe Garfield. Hold on a minute. Because you and Moore represent, y'all are the worst of the worst. Y'all need the most evidence to make slaves come on the ship. You got people, give me a little bit of evidence. I say, okay, some came. Y'all are the worst of the worst. Berean, can you have Garfield and Moore show us credentials? Why should we listen to them? Y'all got Benaiah Israel credentials? Y'all got Dante credentials? I'm telling y'all, let me just be quiet. It's a crazy time.
Hey, I was doing some research this morning on WIDA, right? And I made some errors with it that I need to clear up. So whenever you're going to talk about it again, let me know, because I didn't realize that WIDA, is the original name is Hueda, by the way, with an H. But what happened is that town that's called WIDA today is not the kingdom. So when the map was made at 1747, there was not a kingdom of Judah at the time. So the guy who made the map was actually propagating something that was false at the time, because the kingdom of Wida, or kingdom of Hueda, stopped existing at 1727. And more knows the history. You could correct me if I'm wrong. At 1727, when the Dahomey kingdom took over, there was no longer a kingdom of Wida. So I have the maps and everything to show everybody so they could understand what's going on at the time and why I personally feel they're not Judah. They're not Judah of the Bible. We could go through their religion, what they believed. We could go through their language. We could go through the archaeology for Savi, the capital, is done. It was done 4 or 5 years ago. They have tons of archaeology now of what they believe, what the people did, and everything. So with Wider now, I mean, I think I could put something together to close the case. But you're always gonna find some people that just so big time zealots who just won't listen to information. Wider is not Judah of the Bible. It is not. And in fact, the French now is the reason why it has the name Oida. It's French. But the French used
Why
to
you
say
keep rubbing that in their face? Why you want to keep rubbing that in their face, Garfield?
no, we need to clear that up, because Dante said on the video you played last week that for those who deny it, he has the ultimate proof, and he quoted a source where I showed the source. At the bottom of the source, it said they were converts. So now, a matter of fact, it was saying the Mediterranean people that came to Africa were converts. So if they converted black people, the black people are double converts. So I don't know what these people are trying to do, but if they really want to have an argument about white, a matter of fact, I asked a couple of people in One West, because I will debate them on this. So I'm willing to debate anybody on this topic on Brother Berean channel or my channel, wherever, about Wider being Judah. It is one of the most ridiculous claims I've ever heard in my life, but I understand why originally. But with the information that we have about the Fon language, these people come from, they're Fon speakers. So if they're speakers and their culture, we know that they did voodoo, we know they did different ancestor worship, we know they did divination, we know they did, and by the way too, they did do circumcision, Berean, but they circumcise people when they're teenagers, like the woman. I know that's not Israelite behavior, and their circumcision is nothing like the circumcision in Hebrews tradition.
So that ain't it. So that still ain't it. All right, hold on. Let me go. They say interference. Let me finish this video right here. Fair use.
Given a separate category. But basically what happened was that teachers were given the responsibility of marking down things like eye color, hair color, skin color, and so on. And they were given a method of assessing on the basis of eye color and hair color what the skin color really was. But it wasn't the actual skin color that you could see that was the skin color that had to be marked onto the sheet that was given to teachers to fill in. It was the skin under the sleeve. It was the skin under the sleeve. It was the naked skin. And so if you look at the naked skin, you could see what the real color was. And so it was embedded in the ideas of all of these millions of children in the 1870s who grew to adulthood, you know, by the turn of the century, that visible skin color can be very deceptive, and the real skin color is somehow something to be determined, something that is, so to speak, under the sleeve. And this becomes incredibly important during the Nazi period in a very curious way, because it's a sad thing to have to say, but an enormous amount of Nazi racial theory was and legal practice was borrowed from the United States of America, which has always been really a hotbed of the most violent racism. And indeed, it's very, very easy to show. It's actually incredible people haven't made a bigger deal of it. But if you take somebody like the founder of the person who's responsible for the term anti-Semitism, and this is in the second half of the 19th century, one of the first political anti-Semite. He became an anti-Semite. He became an anti-Semite as a result of going to the Americas and seeing the way that black people were discriminated against, both in the United States. Also, he went to Nicaragua, interestingly, where slavery was practiced even later than here in the US. So you can see that, the hatred of black people impacted mightily upon the period of the 19th century that led into the racial ideas of the Nazis. And even during that period, they were totally viewed as one thing. Hitler himself said that, talking about the United States, he said it's half nigger, it's half Jew, half Negro, half Jew. And he would have used the N-word, I'm sure, had he been speaking in English. And forgive me for using it, but it seemed appropriate in that particular context. And in another context, Hitler himself said that yes, Jews are Negro. Jews are Negroes, full stop. They were thought to be Negroes, full stop. That is conflation. Next slide. So this shows that the ideas of the Nazis really were not unique to Germany. They also spread to fascist Italy. This is a really interesting fascist racial journal. And here you can see somebody who's supposed to be a Jew on the right-hand side, and he's being aided and abetted by a black African on his right. And here you have a picture of an unblemished Italian maiden, and they're in an act of joint seduction. So the idea that the racial purity of the Italians was something that was being threatened by the Jews and by the blacks was something that was graphically portrayed here. And in a way, if you look very carefully at the image, you can see that coming out of the head of the African, there are horns, and there is certainly a kind of suggestion here that, of course, the Jews had, in medieval times, had been thought to have horns, and we all know about the way in which Moses was often represented as having horns as a result of a misunderstanding of a biblical passage. But the idea that the Jews were diabolical and they had horns like the devil, etc., and that the goat was the animal of the Jews. All of this is well known and has been well studied. And here we have a sense that you have a Jew, but you also have a black who, in a sense, is also a Jew, threatening the purity of this Italian, this virtuous Italian girl. Next slide. And this says it even, well, it says the same thing. Here you have an image of Italian purity represented by a classical statue. And on it you have the fingerprint, a black fingerprint, suggesting the taint of black blood. And in the middle of that, you have a Star of David, saying exactly the same thing. The threat to the purity of the Italian race is coming from the same source. It's black, and it's Jewish. Conflation. So the idea of racial contamination extended to the field of music, and of course to the field of art. The word here, entartete, Musik, is decadent decadent music, decadent art was the other thing, and anything Jewish or anything arising from black culture, wherever it was, whether it was African, whether it was African American, was eventually banned. But this is intriguing because this does represent the idea, which is in fact not false, that the jazz and the music of the 1920s, music of jazz and swing, etc., was a joint enterprise of Jews and blacks, and it comes out of a sense among Jews and undoubtedly among blacks at the time as well, that the fate of Jews and the fate of blacks were somehow intertwined, and that they had a huge amount in common. And I think that the Jewish involvement in jazz particularly was an expression of that. Next slide. No slide.
Okay, I think that kind of finishes the slides. I just saw a documentary on Louis Armstrong, who and he was wearing a Jewish star because of all of his patrons were Jewish, and throughout his life he wore this Jewish star. So so we discussed how these ideas feed into the nightmare of the Holocaust. So let's get to today. What are the implications for race relations today? We have like another 5 minutes to do this in UK, US, and Israel, or choose one of them if you just want to pick one. Did you hear me?
I didn't hear what the question was.
Oh, I'm sorry. What are the implications for race today in the UK, US, and Israel? There's only a few minutes left for this part of the discussion. You can pick one or mention all three, or
well, I haven't got much time to develop anything in the current context, other than the fact that the situation in Europe and the situation here is quite different in one very important respect, that it would seem here that the mythology of race still really guides a whole range of discussions, and it really, really should not. It is well known. It is well known to educated people. I would say, particularly in academia, perhaps, but generally, that there is no such thing as race. There are no biological differences between peoples. There are differences between individuals, but there are no biological differences between groups of people. So to talk about race is a complete nonsense. And we've been saying this now for the last 70 years, since after the Holocaust. That really should have rammed the last nail into the coffin of even using the word race. You know, we're reluctant, we mustn't, and we don't use the N word. We shouldn't be using the R word because it's meaningless, and it offends me mightily that I have to fill in forms in America where I have to talk about my race. What are you talking about? What are you saying? What does it mean? Why does it matter? You know, so that's one of the things. If you use the word race, Rasse or Rass, or Rasse in Germany, and people look at you and think, why are you talking? Where are you? You know, where's your? So, you know, that's one of the things. I think if discussions weren't as racialized, it would be far better for everybody. Now, the question of color, again, is it's so meaningless. It really is so meaningless. Why refer to people as white? People aren't white, they're pink or they're yellow. There's no white person on the face of the globe. One of the examples I gave when I was speaking to Bonnie yesterday was that, you know, if you take probably the whitest people, probably Finns living near the very northernmost point of Finland. They're probably as white as anybody. And, if you compare them to the blackest people in the world, who, by the way, are not Africans, they're people living in New Britain, just off the coast of Papua New Guinea, what would you find? Are there any significant differences in terms of DNA? No, there aren't. There absolutely, the number of genes that are responsible for skin color are so few that it's a completely meaningless thing. You would find that they have absolutely everything in common. There's hardly any difference at all between these two groups. So, why are we talking about it? Why are we talking about skin color? We're talking about skin color because of prejudice, and the prejudice can only be rooted out when people understand that there are no races, there are no differences, there are no differences of potential intelligence, there are no differences in capacity, there are no differences in biological makeup. So that's what I would say. Now, I think, to end on a positive note, I suggested earlier that the racial age started at the end of the 17th century with the work of François Bernier. It developed through the 18th and 19th century. It reached its horrific and horrible crescendo during the period of transatlantic slavery and of course, the Holocaust. And then you would think it had kind of come to an end, but it hasn't. But I think myself that it's almost over. I don't think that, in 20, 30 or 40 years from now, we'll be talking much about race, because thank God it's, I think it's a generational obsession. Younger people throughout the West anyway, think much less in racial terms than people of my generation certainly did. I'd be the first to admit that growing up in Great Britain in the 1940s, when we still had the biggest empire that the world had ever seen. I was born in 1944, so this was true until for the first few years of my life. We were taught to believe that we were racially superior to any group on earth. That's how we were raised. That's how we were educated. And it is, you don't get rid of it. It's something that you have to struggle against. But it's going to be very much easier, I think, for the younger generation, my son's generation. I've got one son who's 50, I've got one son who's 20. And the 20-year-old doesn't really get it. There's so many people of different backgrounds in the school he went to that he doesn't really feel it. So I think there are glimmers of hope. In America at the moment, the whole thing is devastating, and it's very largely the result of this awful pandemic. I think that the discussion of the pandemic, unfortunately, has been racialized to an incredible extent. People don't understand when they read that African Americans are suffering more than any other group, and they think, oh, well, they must be more susceptible to it. They do not understand that it's not a question of physical susceptibility or anything of that sort. It's a question of poverty. So the way that African Americans are suffering this ghastly plague is going to be similar to the way in which other disadvantaged and poor people are suffering it. It doesn't need to be racialized at all.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor. I know that.
All right, listen to this. Listen to this, y'all. In light of what has Tudor Parfitt done, if anything, to help to advance to forward the awakening? That's my question. That's my question to two of y'all. Y'all don't even believe. I want, in light of what Tudor Parfitt said, y'all, I want y'all to question these two on the panel right here, because they acting like they don't receive nothing that y'all believe about the awakening. I'll try to put the stuff up on the screen, but I got to step away for a second. All right, go ahead, y'all. I'll put the questions up on the screen. Golfer, you want to bring the screen up?
I don't even know if he's there.
All right, he might. Go ahead, more. Y'all, he'll just look at the screen on comment. I'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I got you. So in terms of the awakening about the skin doctor concept, like Tudor's not doing nothing for that, right? In terms of the actual awakening and whatnot, Tudor's doing a great deal for that. Because I looked at his work with the Lemba, right? Like, so for me, the awakening looks like Cohen Hamadisha. It looks like Covey. It looks like my mother and whatnot, right? These are people who found out they had a particular lineage and whatnot, but they're messianic with it and whatnot, right? Like they're trying to fall underneath the Messiah with that concept, right? So in terms of that concept, right, in the real awakening and whatnot, you shouldn't have people denying people being Jews or Israelites based upon skin color and whatnot, right? And he did something fantastic with his work with the Lemba because he literally proved out the thing, like, no, you can literally have a diverse group of people that looks really different and whatnot, and you can't reject the Lemba based upon how they look. To me, that's profound. That's a fantastic word. That literally goes against the skin doctrine concept, right? Literally goes against the skin doctrine concept. But people also need to know how he's going at the awakening, and y'all don't even catch it, because his whole methodology, like he said it here, that when it comes to skin tone, the DNA that makes it up it's so little DNA that does that, right? He's talking about the same stuff that Yapkin talks about in terms of phenotype is fluid. He says our humanity is united by way more DNA than those things that make up the skin color, right? That's autosomes or whatever, right? But when he wants to prove a connection between a people, Tudor Parfitt's the one that went to Yemen and got DNA. Tudor Parfitt's the one that went and got the Lemba DNA, whatnot, right? To see if they fit the CMH, if they had the haplogroup J that they found in that particular study with the Sephardic and Ashkenazi Jewish Kohen and whatnot, right? So for him, when he wants to see if people connected whatnot, he does it by haplogroup. So I need y'all to understand this and why this shoots the faking in the face and whatnot, right? So we have the DNA from the people from Sao Tome and Principe and whatnot, right? They don't have the CMH. So based upon his concept and his methodology, they wouldn't be bloodline descendants of the Levites or Jews or etc. They wouldn't have the CMH or whatnot, right? They would have to descend from converts via Tudor's concept or whatnot, right? He wouldn't argue the fact that people look different, that there was a range of color, whatnot, but he would, via his concept, he would have to take their DNA, like, well, they don't have the same DNA that the Lemba have that matches all the other Jews and whatnot, right? Now, this is where he's talking about, like, he wants to see what the DNA looks like in Loango and whatnot, right? Because, again, or from the people from Loango, because they're still there, first and foremost, right? Which is, you definitely got to understand that. But B, he wants to see if they got the same DNA that the Lemba got that matches the other Jews with J and whatnot, right? So even based upon Tudor's arguments, he's shooting the DNA arguments y'all are making in the face in terms of the faking and whatnot. And B, how he's trying to deal with skin color is literally opposite from what you're talking about. It's opposite. You shouldn't be rejecting people because they're black, right? In the same way, you shouldn't be rejecting people because they're white. Again, the phenotype is fluid. The way he even talks about it. So how are you using Tudor Parfitt and his information and whatnot? How are you really using it? Now, there's ways you can use it because he's totally down for the concept of there being black Jews, right? He has no issue with that in any way, shape, or form. And that's something that people should be able to people in the real awakening should be able to cling on to, right? Because I'll tell you this for a fact, if you do claim some form of West African Jewry, you are going to catch some grief from other groups of people and whatnot, right? And so it's good to be able to make legitimate arguments for your thing and whatnot, right? And one way he'll help you out with this is, again, he completely accepts Jews from West Africa, or Jews from, or black Jews, or Jews from West Africa, period, or whatnot. And he's for the investigation of finding out how much Jewry was there or whatnot. What does it look like? What was the genetic imprint, etc. He's all for doing DNA tests for that stuff, right? But if you get into his work, you get it in his top partner in the game, Ida Bruley, whatnot. They talk about the same basic sources you're going to get from different populations in Africa. They talk about East Africa, North Africa. They'll talk about West Africa in terms of like the Sephardic Jew population that actually made it there, right? But what they don't focus on, and this is why I bring out a lot of the Arabic sources and whatnot, is the parts of where you have actual ancient Jewry in the Western Sahel and whatnot, right? And that's why it's important to understand that's where the scholastic conversation is at the moment, right? All this stuff that you're seeing come out in terms of all these sources about the Sephardic Jews, etc. None of that is moving scholarship anywhere, fam. Those sources have been there for forever, and it's not. And unfortunately, it's not saying what you think it's saying. It's leaving it off just at Sephardic Jews in West Africa. It's not going back farther than that, right? And so the scholastic conversation now is going back farther than that into West Africa. And I'm asking y'all to catch up to the thing, fam. Because those are the people like more of us are actually going to connect to. Yeah, because he said people always knew they were black. I love it and I hate it all at the same time. Like people hear what Tudor's saying and they don't hear what Tudor's saying all at the same time. He's also talking about like it's conflation to say that the Negro is the Jew based upon certain concepts, right? Just to make the straight across line equivocation and whatnot, right?
You reading this?
More, if you and Dunamis said yesterday that by the 1st century, the majority of Israel were converts and the Lemba, etc. DNA matches the converts, would it make sense that the DNA is in Samoa? I need the rest of the comment there. Oh, okay. So the Jews is okay.
You finished more?
What DNA?
There we go. That's more
they
complete.
were converts, right, J-Jax? I think that's what she's saying. I don't want to get the guessing. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you and Dunamis admit that by the 1st century, the majority of Jews were converts, then the DNA of the Lemba matches the converts. So the Jews in Sao Tome shouldn't match. Well, there's literally, so this is again, so if they're coming from Spain and Portugal, we have the DNA from Spain and Portugal that says that there's J there. J in Spain and Portugal, that would, in terms of what we have for DNA on record or whatnot. Like I can show you Benai's videos where he's literally showing you that from like 20 different bodies or whatnot, that the J in Portugal is older than the way older than the E in Portugal, or like the E1B1A in Portugal, Spain and Portugal, right? So this concept of it shouldn't match is no, the J's is in literally every major population of Jewry out there, from the Cochin Jews to North African Jews to any Jewish population you want to point to. I can even show you Jay in the Western Sahel or whatnot, right? So I should again, I'm not saying that they're not Jews. I'm saying based upon the Tudor's methodology, he's not going to say that they're bloodline Jews based upon the J. They're a bunch of R1B and they got a little bit of E1B1B and whatnot, right?
And more, you finished, brother?
Yes, sir.
When you approach these folks, man, if they agree with Tudor Parfitt, race is a social construct. It has no sense in biology. There's no race in biology, nothing. Mm-hmm. But what they did, though, they lured you in to a faulty premise. She says that the Jews in the 1st century are mostly converts. We don't need to agree with her by answering her based off that statement. What she needs to say is that, hey, you know what? I believe I'm a Jew. I'm an Israelite. And I don't care what nobody else says. And we don't have to argue with people like that. We just leave them alone to themselves. Because you can't defeat someone's belief. They believe they are the Israelites. Now, if they want to have a historical conversation and genetics, they don't want that conversation. What you're saying, they don't want that. They're not going to conversate with you about that. They want you to say that these people are converts. Hence, everybody else that comes from them is converts. So their genetic marker doesn't matter. So you're going to fall into their trap with their perspectives on their angles of what is truth and how to research. I don't think
Parfitt made it sound like race is nothing but a game. You think these people are actually falling into the game that was just invented a couple of 100 years ago?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
She said they were both black and white Jews in Portugal. Was she even thinking about that in that game?
I've been saying it for 2 years, Barry, that they could be any color, they could have any phenotype. That's the craziness. So whenever they talk, it always has to do with race. With Gideon, come on, oh, they were black. Everybody's black. Hitler is black. Everybody's black. Everybody's black in their eyes. Nobody's white. That's why when Dante came on, I said, you know what? Let's concede the whole race thing. All of them are black. Just prove that those people that you're talking about came on the slave ships. Then the conversation's over. You don't need no more debates, no more videos, no more documentaries. You have proven your case. The case is over. They can't do that. And what happened is every time we talk, Marine, they love your channel because the race stuff always comes up. It always boils down to race. It's nothing about a reality. Everybody needs a reality check. The majority of us in the West does come from Central and West Africa. That's it. You can't get away from that. You can't get away from that. Now, is there some people that can creep in from who were mixed with people in Europe and people who are mixed and so forth? Yeah, a few could come in here and there, but the majority, I'm talking like 96, 97%, those people come from West and Central Africa. We can't deny that. We can't deny that. And what happened is they slam West and Central Africans because of
spirit that don't want to be from. There's a deep hatred for being an African, West African. People
that's that one West camp doctrine have infected the people who don't even join camps.
Non-camp is riding with that.
I don't know, man. I think the color thing is messing up. You're gonna talk about this for the next 50,000 years, bro. I'm telling you. You can't get away from it. This is why Dante have people gravitating so much. He says he's not an Israelite in that sense, but he follows Christ. But he's pushing race. Every video I'm watching all his videos. I'm watching his videos.
Facts. He says you can't be saved unless you believe in the Black Christ, because if you believe in the wrong one, that's a lie, and you can't be saved by a lie. That's his whole doctrine.
How do we know what Christ's color is?
Facts.
Y'all got to pull that clip up. That's beef right there. That's beef right there. I ain't gonna lie. That's beef right there, y'all. We're Tony Osborne. You got to believe in his color to be a specific thing in order to receive salvation. Where Elder Harris at?
Wow.
Right there. I can't lie, but look what they saying about Tudor Parfitt. How is Garfield contradicting Tudor Parfitt and what he said today? That's the question. How is Garfield contradicting Tudor Parfitt?
Garfield's 100% correct, because y'all are twisting basic history just to make stuff like, okay. So Jay Goddard got a comment way back there. It says, more, did you read the book after
we all Africans. Jesus, glory to God in heaven. Go ahead,
facts. Right, but this is the point here.
Hold on, more before you go. You know that Tudor Parfitt just answered Bruce's beef, right? When he talk about the Loango Jews,
yeah,
he's saying that they're still there.
This is what I'm trying to get people to understand. Please stay right there, because that was exactly what I was going to read, fam. Thank you. That's exactly what I was going to try to stay on, fam. Is these pockets of Jews that people are trying to connect us to didn't even step on slave ships and come to the Americas, fam. So my man Jay Goddard said, more, did you read the book African Jews by Mendelssohn in 1920? It's a free PDF on Google. He speaks on an African Jewish kingdom in Congo in the 1600s. Again, here's the beef, fam. We're talking about a group of Black Sephardic people, right? So they're descended from Portuguese people, right? And they're there you're talking about the 1600s, and then they're still there, Majid, after it's illegal for slaves to come over from Africa to North America. They're still there. And again, Tudor's like, we're trying to see if we can go do DNA on these people, if we can find them or whatnot, because they're still there. So all this fight about these Jews, does this Portuguese Jew mean black? Fam, we're talking about people that are still there. We're talking, I want you, please wrap your mind around this, fam. When I say that the majority of us don't descend from, I won't leave out the odd person that could, and like I won't leave out the odd slaver that had no issue selling their kids and whatnot, right? Because that was definitely going on, right? But I'm gonna say it like this: you got to understand these particular Lanzaros and Luso Africans you're trying to connect yourself to were the slaver class. They were not the slave class. This is why you keep seeing next to their name merchants, traders. It don't say slave.
Hey, Covey dropped something the other day that was a bomb too, man, about the names. You could trace people's roots by their genealogy and names. Like in Jamaica, the Vaz family is very huge. So but these are people that weren't slaves. And the majority of the people that they're tracing that have a root with a name, say, hey, the Costa, the guy in what was the guy in big time in Benin? What was his name? Was it the Costa or was it Baptiste? What his name was? I forgot what his name was. But his name, Da Costa, whatever, is prominent. One of my classmates' name was Da Costa. He's a pilot now in real life. He's traced back to Sephardic Jews, and he looks just like me. Just like me. So if you want to deal with skin tone, he looked just like me, and he's a Sephardic. Family never came over as a slave. Went to high school together in Jamaica. Hey, Sean Paul used to go to my high school too. Light skin, we used to call him white boys, but they weren't white per se, but he was part of Sephardic history. That's what it is. But you could use names and trace people's roots, because the Vaz family in Jamaica and the Vaz family in Curacao and the ones in the Netherlands are actually related through genetics. We could trace these Jews. Covey was on point. I forgot to talk about that the other day.
Oh, y'all looking at the screen, or y'all just talking about what y'all want? They got questions for y'all.
My fault. Are they there or not? And if they are, why wouldn't they just go get the DNA if they're there? So this is what Tudor's saying. Like, he's saying he would like to go do that DNA test. That hasn't been done like that. Like, so how it was done in Sao Tome, it hasn't been done in that part of the Congo. So y'all got to understand, like, the majority of scholarship isn't concerned with African Jewry like that. This is an American thing that we're concerned with and whatnot, right? And so there's
if
a lot of
Loango Jews, in other words, if the Loango people come up with some sort of connection, then it really don't help the argument either way.
Well, that's not the point I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make is like people need to understand these tests aren't already done yet, because like, so it was done with the Lemba because people wanted to see if the Lemba connected to other Jews or whatnot, right? And so like that question is not universal. Everyone's not in academia is not trying to answer that question. Is everybody in Africa Jews? No, that's an Amerocentric concept. Like, so he's being honest and saying these DNA collects they still need to be done, and he would like to see what it looks like. But here's the thing, fam. Like, so they're telling it ain't gonna look no different than it most likely won't look that different from the DNA from Sao Tome and Principe and whatnot, right? If we're talking about the same populations of people and whatnot, right? Particularly with Loango, you're talking about people moving down from those populations in Weed, etc. Right? So it's not going to look that different. So what do I mean by that? I mean, like, so if Tudor doesn't see Jay there, for him they're not going to be bloodline. He'll definitely say that they're Jews and there's converts to the whole thing, because he doesn't rule people out like that, right? But for him, he's not going to be like, okay, they don't fit the they don't have the Cohen modal haplotype. He would treat them just like he would treat any other, like if Lemba didn't have it. You understand what I'm saying? Y'all really got to understand the methodology and understand this. So in terms of like what J. Jax was talking about, like with the first century, whatnot. So please understand the full argument with what they make with the Cohen modal haplotype, right? So they're trying to say that haplotype, the way they have it mapped out,
they make it sound like y'all didn't even come in and y'all didn't even hear the video. Y'all didn't even hear what the man said. Type of one if y'all think Garfield understands what Tudor Parfitt said, or they on here freestyling. He said, you're so off, but replay the whole video.
Yeah, because I definitely missed the part where he backs the racial constructs of things, man. I definitely missed that part.
Let me see, right? Oh, no, they serious. Wait. So what are y'all saying? Read some of it.
That's about what Parfitt said. He said he was discussing this with intellectuals in Africa at Berin TV.
All right, hold on. Read some of that.
Yeah, just read that.
Harris, are they missing what was being said? Terry Pope, Tudor Parfitt didn't help anything at all. Boy, oh man, yeah, hold on a minute. No, matter of fact, I got something. Matter of fact, I got something else. Fair use. Where my fair use sister
The
at?
teachers at Oxford were often going on about the fact that the furthest east that any Orientalists needed to go was Leipzig. And the reason for this was that it was considered that people studying the East didn't really need to go there. You could study the people and the place from a distance, and particularly in a library. And it just so happens that Leipzig is the most easterly of the great European Orientalist libraries. But I'm not that kind of scholar. I've had a lot of adventures in my life, and I've had...
Wait a minute. See, that's the thing that scared me. Elder Harris and Elder and Tony, they're saying that Moore and Garfield talking good, and y'all saying they ain't hear the video. Is this a comprehension problem we're having? Jason Brown said he's killing y'all movement. Listen what Parfitt said. Let me see if this will add to the movement. This add to the help.
Journeys. And the most exciting of these, in many ways, and this is really rather surprising and astonishing, was in Africa. Now, why should this be surprising? It's surprising because I am a student of Jewish studies, and particularly remote Jewish communities throughout the world. And whereas, of course, there were Jews in places like Europe and the Caucasus and Central Asia, and of course, on the Silk Route as far as China, there were no Jews in pre-modern times in Black Africa, with the exception of one or two references in very, very dodgy medieval texts suggesting that there might be some lost cities and the occasional Jewish king somewhere in the heart of the unknown continent. This is how it happened. I was asked to go to South Africa to give a lecture at the University of Witwatersrand, and
oh yeah, that song gonna be a problem.
Like this. The place was full of very well-dressed, affluent-looking white South Africans, and they listened very attentively, sitting in their comfortable, well-upholstered chairs to what I had to say. But at the back of the hall, there was quite a large group of very poorly dressed Black people, shoeless, but they were wearing little black skull caps. And after my lecture, I went across, introduced myself, and we started to chat. And they explained that they were members of the Lemba tribe. And then, to my great astonishment again, they said that they were Black Jews who'd come hundreds or perhaps thousands of years before into Africa from somewhere in the north and from a city that they referred to as Senna. And they had a kind of epic poem which they started chanting to me, and it went something like this: "We are the white men who came from Senna. We crossed Pusela. We crossed the sea. We came to Africa. We rebuilt Senna. We are the white men who came from Senna. We followed the star. We carried the ark." Pretty amazing song. And then they said that they would like me to go and visit them. And they lived 6 or 7 hours north of where we were, right up against the frontier with...
Now, wait a minute. They singing a song, "We the White Man." What the? Wait a minute. Wait one. Cotton picking. We got to park right here for a second.
Who's singing the song? Bereen, who's singing the song?
What up, I ain't talking to you. Yo, most excellent. Hey, yo, what's the song?
Notice the tense in the song. It's not past tense, right? It's not we were. It's we are. You heard?
Oh man, hey yo, hold on, Slick. Hey yo, that's Slick right there. Slick, you got to come up here for a minute. What's the purpose of that song? Maybe they meant symbolically. Where Ryan Harris at? He heard the song? Let Tudor Parfitt keep on going. What's going on here?
Zimbabwe, in little thatched villages. And off I went and spent a little time there, several days. And at night, I would sit out with the old men and they would tell me stories 7 hours north of where we were, right up against the frontier with Zimbabwe in little thatched villages. And off I went and spent a little time there, several days. And at night, I would sit out with the old men and they would tell me stories of their journey across Africa, of their Jewish customs, of their circumcision rites and their ritual slaughter of animals. And most astonishingly, they told me how their priests, because there was a priestly clan, how their priests carried something like the Ark of the Covenant on their shoulders on poles right across the continent. Well, it was a pretty amazing story, and I was amazed as a Jewish scholar that I didn't know about it. There is no more historically conscious people in the world than the Jews. And yet in the whole realm of Jewish scholarship, there was no mention of these people and these remarkable stories. So I felt that I absolutely had to find out whether these people were genuinely Jewish in the first place. And I wondered if this was possible. And I also needed to find out where their lost city of Senna was. I decided to try and do this. And a few months later, I started off on a journey which took me right across Africa. And the idea of the journey, in a way, was to follow the oral tradition of this tribe in reverse, because the oral tradition was extremely complete and very precise, and it worked as an amazingly good roadmap. And so off I set, and it took me through South Africa and Zimbabwe, and then Malawi, Tanzania, and finally into Mozambique. And then I got to the sea, and then the clues simply dried up. There was nothing there that could help me find the original Senna, which was somewhere across this sea, somewhere in the north. But while I was on the coast, I found near the mouth of the Zambezi River some great monumental chunks of stone. And a few days later in Zanzibar, I was rootling around in a library, came across some old Arabic texts, and I was able to deduce that these stones were the last remnant of a city which had existed there by the name of Sayuna. Now, I was pretty sure that this Sayuna would have been the second Senna of the Lemba. They left Senna, they crossed the sea, came to Africa and rebuilt this Senna, Sayuna. But it also occurred to me that this Sayuna was the same as the Arabic for the word Zion, like an African Zion. And when I thought that, a cold shiver went down my spine. It was a very exciting moment. But still, I had no way at that point of trying to discover the original Senna. And it was only the following year, when I was in the Yemen, in South Arabia, doing a book on the Jews of the Yemen, that I had another clue. And this happened by chance.
Stuff,
I was
man.
having
You're
lunch
definitely sick, man.
with
Hey, Garfield, you might
a
open up.
Muslim cleric
I'm not
in
sick.
Tarim, a holy city in the Hadramaut,
Daddy?
which is that valley that crosses right across South Arabia. And I told him what I'd been doing. I told him the story of the Lemba, the story of their crossing from Senna, crossing Pusela, rebuilding Senna, and so on. And the cleric clapped his hands together and he said, I think I've got a hunch. I think I know where your Senna is. And he told me that he'd heard that right at the end of the Wadi, going towards Mehra and Oman, there was indeed a lost city, or the remnants of a lost city in the desert, partially covered by sands. And there was a local tradition that when the original population had to leave because the dam there broke, they went to Africa. So I jumped into a Land Rover. A few days later, I was there, discovered this lost city of Senna, and talking to the Bedouin tribes who lived in the vicinity, I was astonished to discover that their tribal names were exactly the same as the clan names of the Lemba tribe right on the other side of Africa, thousands and thousands of miles away. So this seemed to me to be a reasonable indication that this indeed was the tribe. This was really the lost city of this tribe. And then they told me that when they'd left the city, when the population had left the city, they followed a valley called the Masila down to the sea, and then they took a boat which took them to Africa. And I thought, well, maybe the Masila is the Pusela of their oral tradition. But still, it was close. I wasn't entirely satisfied that I had the proof. It wasn't exactly a smoking gun. So I had the idea that maybe what seemed to be pretty impossible by regular means might be made possible by using genetics. And so I went back to London, and I had quite a number of geneticist friends, told them what the problem was historically, and we agreed to do a project together. And so we did a big collect in the Hadramaut, collected a lot of data, and then we went to Africa, did control collects, and a huge collection from the Lemba tribe itself, took the data back to London into the lab, and a couple of weeks later they called me in, we sat down, we looked at the information that was coming out, and to my great gratification and excitement, there was a real overlap between the population of the Lemba and the population of the Eastern Hadramaut. Well, this is pretty exciting because it seemed to me that I had therefore proved that where the original Senna of the Lemba was. Good. I had also proved that their tradition, which said that they had come from the north, presumably from Arabia, was true. But there was the other question. Were they Jewish? Now, a couple of years before, I'd collaborated on another paper which had to do with the Jewish priesthood. Now, a Jewish priest is called Cohen. Everybody here knows somebody called Mr. Cohen. Now, Mr. Cohen, in theory, would be descended from the original priests who 2,500 years ago officiated in the temple in Jerusalem. That was the idea. So we did a big experiment. We collected many Cohens from all over the world. And what we discovered really was a corroboration of this tradition that over half of the Cohen population descended from a particular individual, and that particular individual lived somewhere in the area of Palestine, Israel, 3,000 years ago. 3,000 years ago is more or less the time when Moses lived, and it was Moses's brother, Aaron, who was the founder of the priesthood. So this was a pretty neat piece of research. And a particular haplotype, a particular signature, a family signature of the Cohens was known to exist and did exist. So then, when we started looking more closely at the stuff coming out of the Lemba DNA, in one of the clans, their priestly clan, you remember the clan that carried something like the Ark over Africa, what did we discover? We discovered that the same proportion of that clan had this rare haplotype as did Cohen's throughout the world. Again, this was a pretty extraordinary moment. So it was fair to say that the origins of the Lemba were indeed Jewish. We knew where Senna was, and we knew how they got there more or less. The implications of this piece of research.
Hey, Brandon, it seems like the stream got cut.
Considerable. They were certainly significant for the Lemba people, because when they were first discovered or come across,
all right, hold on a second. Let me see.
They were forced pretty much to become Christians, like everybody else in the area. As soon as the DNA research.
Hold on. Type of one if y'all can hear me. Type of one if y'all can hear me. Let me see.
And drove a few days later. I was there.
My name is Pat Snipes, and I'm the founder of the Before Slavery Museum Project, where you can learn the pre-slavery history of African Americans. Today, we are delighted to introduce to some and present to others Professor Tudor Parfitt. He is our special guest. Dr. Parfitt is a British historian, writer, broadcaster, traveler, and adventurer. Think Indiana Jones. He's a professor at University of London School of Oriental and African Studies and Florida International University. Welcome, Professor Parfitt.
Very nice to you.
We have been
online is saying stream
technical
unavailable.
difficulties, so we're going to jump right in here.
All right, I'm gonna show you
with
how to come back
Professor
on.
Parfitt explaining about the people that were selected for the slave trade.